I was clearly training in martial arts. How I became a being with supernatural powers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126 Escape. No, I've been at home all day. Qianhei shook his head. The constable secretly observed Qianhei's expression and saw that his expression and movements were very natural, so he knew that he was not lying. However, as a routine, he still had to go in and search. Then let's go in and take a look. Is it okay? The constable said lightly. If the official asks, there is naturally no problem. Qianhei smiled slightly and quietly handed over a piece of silver with his right hand. Because the thin man was behind him, the constable's back blocked Qianhei's small movements at all. The constable looked at the 10 taels of silver in his hand and smiled slightly. Generally, for a family like this, giving 10 taels of silver is already the limit. If he didn't give the silver, even if there was no suspicion here, he would take people to search the house. But the other party was sensible, so the constable didn't make it difficult. He took people to look around the room casually, without rummaging through the boxes and cabinets, and waved his hand to let people retreat and go to the next house. Qianhei accompanied the constable and the yamen runners out with a smile. When he closed the door, his expression became deep again. He walked back to the room where Mengfeng had been. Incense was burning in the room. The sheets and mattresses were all replaced with new ones. After Zuzan left, the experienced Qianhei changed Mengfeng's clothes and burned them. The same was true for the sheets and mattresses, and then he quickly used incense to cover up the smell. This is how he escaped the search. 2 figures fell from the sky. They were Qin Yang and Mengfeng. They had been hiding on the beams. If the constables searched carefully, they might not miss them. Mengfeng was still very weak. Qin Yang helped him to the bed to rest, and then walked out of the yard with Qianhei. Master, we still have to find a way to move people out first. Qianhei said seriously. Well, I will take Mengfeng away tonight. I will show my tracks a little bit, so that they can find me. In this way, they will not stare at this place anymore, and you can take the opportunity to leave. Didn't you find a lover? Take her to hide in the nearby countryside. Come to the Sky Patrol to find me, if you have anything. Qin Yang took out a silver note of 500 taels of silver. Qianhei showed up today. Although he was not noticed, there was no telling what might happen later. It was better to let him leave first. After all, the Mengfeng incident is now involving more and more people. It was originally just a case of making weapons, but now even the other shore sect is involved. If it continues to develop, Qin Yang doesn't know what will happen. Master, I have saved money over the years, so I don't need so much. Qianhei shook his head. I'm in the Sky Patrol department now, and I have money, but nowhere to spend it. Besides, this little money is nothing to me. You can use it first. Qin Yang smiled. Qianhei heard this, and could only put the banknote away. Master, be careful. Qianhei said seriously. Haha. Uncle Qian, Qin Yang, have fought all the way from Linjiang City to here. Such a small matter can't stump me at all. Qin Yang laughed. After dark, the search of the government office finally came to an end. Han Dang, the leader of the Han family's guards, the sturdy man, looked ugly. Han Dang, I can only help you up to this point. A man wearing a police uniform and a mustache said softly. His name is Han Yan, and he is also from the Han family. Otherwise, they would not have gone to such great lengths to mobilize people here today. Well, you can withdraw first. Han Dang nodded. The people from the government office are too conspicuous here. If they continue to stay here, Mengfeng will not dare to show up. Then I will wait for your good news. Han Yan smiled. He knew that Han Dang had transferred half of the Han family's guards here and lurked in several nearby streets. After today's search, Mengfeng was naturally a frightened bird. When he noticed that the people from the government office had withdrawn, he would naturally think that this was a good time to escape. But he didn't know that there was a bigger net waiting for him. Don't worry. Han Dang laughed. Han Yan stopped talking nonsense and left with his men. Several nearby streets soon returned to silence. But in every shadow, there were people from the Han family lurking. Mengfeng, Can you bear it? Han Dang stood on the eaves of a palace, overlooking the dark streets below. As long as there was any movement nearby, it could not be hidden from his eyes. Qin's house. Meng Feng's condition improved after a short rest, but he could not exert force. Once he exerted force, the wound would burst more severely. Qin Yang changed into night clothes, put on a mask, and carried Meng Feng on his back. Qian Bo, I'll go first. Qin Yang whispered. Master, take care. Qian He clasped his fists. Qin Yang nodded, carrying Meng Feng on his back, jumped up, and suddenly turned into a black light, and swept out of the city. Soon, this black light was noticed by many Han family guards lurking in the dark. Han Dang's human wave tactics were actually effective. In fact, Qin Yang wanted to stay away from it before revealing his whereabouts, but the Han family deployed too many people on this street. Too many eyes were watching. Any movement would be discovered immediately. No matter how fast Qin Yang is, it will be useless unless he can teleport. Go. Someone in the dark quickly commanded. The sound of a titan's sharp noose. The next moment, dozens of arrows suddenly shot out from the shadows everywhere. These arrows were extremely powerful, tearing the airflow, and the speed was extremely fast. But no matter how fast they were not faster than the black light figure. Even if Qin Yang was carrying someone on his back, he had the two magical powers of fleeting light and swiftness, and he could easily avoid these arrows with one burst. Finally appeared. I want to see who has been helping Meng Feng behind the scenes. Han Dang, who was standing on the eaves, condensed his eyes. With his eyesight, he could see that there was a person on the back of the black shadow. This person should be Meng Feng. As for this black shadow, needless to say, it must be the person who kidnapped Meng Feng at the execution ground last time. In fact, after the robbery of the execution ground, not only the Han family, but even the county lieutenant Zhenglong did not find out the details of the person who robbed the execution ground after some investigation. He stepped on the ground and chased after the black light. At the same time, several figures suddenly appeared on the roof of the house in front. They suddenly opened a large net to cover the black light, as if casting a net to catch fish. This large net was brought tonight to capture Meng Feng. It was covered with many sharp blades, and each blade was coated with poison. Han Dang had no intention of leaving any survivors. He just wanted to kill people. At the moment the large net was opened, Qin Yang dodged in an extremely anti-physical posture, and at the same time, he drew his sword with one hand, and cut out a fierce streak. Puff. Under the moonlight, a head flew up to the sky with blood. Puff. Then there were several more cold knife lights. The guards who cast the large net were beheaded by him with a single knife. However, he wasted this time, and Han Dang took the opportunity to catch up. Feeling the murderous intent behind him, Qin Yang seemed not to want to entangle with him. He exerted force on his feet, and used the glimpse of light to escape again. He was now carrying a seriously injured Meng Feng on his back, and his hands and feet were tied, and he could not exert his strength. What's more, there are so many Han family ambushes here. Once they are delayed, it may be a bloody storm. Chapter 127 Surge. Can you run away? Han Dang grinned. His actions tonight naturally included Qin Yang. Because he was able to rescue Meng Feng from the execution ground last time, he might also appear this time. During the execution, this man injured Jiang Pingchuan from the government office with one punch, and he might not be his opponent. So he secretly invited a master from the Han family to come and take charge. Qin Yang, who was jumping on the roof like a flying swallow, suddenly felt a creepy feeling in his heart. In the silent night sky, a strange flute sound suddenly rang out. This strange flute sound seemed to lock on Qin Yang, turning into an invisible sound wave, which made his head hurt a lot, like a knife cutting and a needle piercing. Meng Feng was even worse, and his 5 orifices were shaken to bleed. Damn. Spiritual master. Qin Yang's eyes changed. Han Dang held a huge axe in both hands, and the muscles of his 2 arms were bulging and ferocious, entangled with anger, and chopped ferociously in the air. Qin Yang seemed to be still tortured by the severe pain in his head, and did not realize the danger behind. Just when Han Dang thought that Qin Yang was about to be chopped in half, his heart suddenly began to beat wildly, and his whole body began to tremble. A fierce and extreme aura suddenly enveloped him. Qin Yang turned his waist halfway, and thrust out the Lingai knife. The deep and cold beaming black water key wrapped around the Lingao knife, as if it had turned into an evil dragon. The dragon went out to sea. With a clang, the Lingao knife fiercely stabbed the axe blade of the giant axe. Even though Han Dang had the advantage of a surprise attack, he felt like he was hit by a dragon. He screamed and fell directly into the house below. Woo woo woo, the strange flute sound rang again. It came from all directions, preventing Qin Yang from locking his position. But this time, Qin Yang was prepared. The beaming black water key was fully running in his body, and the Hunyuan key quickly formed on the surface. This time, the Hunyuan key underwent a huge change. The dragon head has no horns, the snake tail has only a pair of sharp dragon claws, and is covered with deep scales. It has turned into a black armored evil dragon. This black armored evil dragon entangled Qin Yang, making him look like a god or demon. This is the change in Qin Yang's spirit. After practicing the evil dragon swallowing knife, these changes naturally affect the Hunyuan key. When the Hunyuan key is formed, the sound of the flute can no longer disturb him. But Qin Yang's eyes are constantly looking for the trace of the spiritual master. He can withstand it, but Meng Feng can't withstand it for long. At this moment, Han Dang, who was chopped down by him, jumped up again, jumped from the roof, swung the giant axe with both hands, and slashed out like a whirlwind. He couldn't let Qin Yang find the spiritual master, and wanted to delay some time, looking for death. Qin Yang roared impatiently. His eyes seemed to become like the eyes of a dragon, cold and fierce, and the extreme evil spirit could not stop spreading. Dragon 10 flows combined into one slash. Qin Yang directly used a special move of the Jiana long swallowing evil knife. The huge beaming black water key in his body spread out, turning into dense cold water streams, and then quickly gathered in the Lingao knife, slashing out fiercely. Puff Han Dang's eyes changed. When the giant axe and the Lingao knife collided with each other, he only felt that he was hit by countless cold water streams like a wave. Even if he tried his best, the bones and muscles of his arms were broken and exploded. A flash of knife light suddenly chopped on his head. The head was split in half like a watermelon and fell heavily. At the same time, Qin Yang also locked the position of the spiritual master. In a private house, he performed the Phi Iron step and suddenly rushed towards the position of the spiritual master. When he rushed into the private house, dozens of dark green bamboo swords shot at him violently. Ding ding ding. Qin Yang waved the Lingao knife with one hand, his wrist trembling rapidly, and kept blocking these dark green bamboo swords. When all the bamboo swords were chopped by him, there was no trace of the spiritual master in the house. Cowardly rat. Qin Yang snorted coldly. He did not pursue him, but jumped up and quickly left with Meng Feng on his back. Without Han Dang's obstruction, the remaining Han family guards could not stop him at all, and soon left the city gate and fled. After being more than 10 miles away from Shan County City, Qin Yang suddenly turned back and headed towards the patrol department after confirming that there were no pursuers behind him. Shan County City. Han family. Han Baocheng looked at Han Dang's corpse, his face livid, and gritted his teeth and said, "Who is that man?" A man in a green robe with black eyes shook his head and said, "I didn't see the man's face, but he has a strong murderous aura. His true energy is cold and deep, and his knife skills are fierce. The head of the family may investigate from this aspect. There are only a few people in the city who use knives fiercely. No one will stand up for Meng Feng. Either he is from outside, or he is from the patrol department." Han Baocheng's eyes darkened. The Han family has a deep influence in Shan County City, and the local masters know it clearly. If it was an outside expert that Meng Feng knew, it would be better. If it was someone from the patrol department, it would be troublesome. Because the patrol department has recruited many martial arts experts, and there are also experts transferred from the patrol department of Yangning Prefecture. In addition, its organization is strict, and it is not clear what experts are inside. And we don't know how much stuff Meng Feng has in his hands at present. The black-eyed man reminded. I feel that he should have a lot of things in his hands. Meng Feng is indeed capable. He can find my Han family workshop continuously. Han Baocheng's eyes flickered. The man in green robe fell silent. He was just a spiritual master of the Han family. Even if his status was special, this matter was too serious now, and it even concerned the survival of the Han family. He didn't want to express any opinions. Even if it was the patrol department, So what? This Shan County city has always been the world of our few families. Han Baocheng sneered. He quickly asked someone to prepare a carriage and headed towards the Zheng family. He was not sure that it was the patrol department, but he just wanted to be prepared and prepare for a rainy day. What happened tonight seemed to be a small movement, but in fact, many people were watching. In the county governor's mansion, Gongsun Liang did not sleep in the middle of the night and was fishing in the pavilion, his old eyes slightly closed, as if he was asleep. Sir, Meng Feng was rescued again. The slightly fat lawyer walked into the pavilion excitedly. Today, Han Dang came to mobilize the staff of the Yamen, and it was impossible to hide it from Gongsun Liang's eyes. He naturally sent people to watch in secret. Good. Gongsun Liang shouted, and suddenly raised the fishing rod. A fat fish jumped out of the water with the fishing rod. Sir, do you say this fish is good, or this matter is good? The slightly fat lawyer asked. Both are good. Both are good. Gongsun Liang laughed. This person rescued Meng Feng twice in a row. His strength is really strong. I just don't know the identity of that person. The slightly fat lawyer frowned. Don't worry about who he is. From the fact that the other party rescued Meng Feng twice in a row, he must be thinking of going against the Han family. In this way, we can reap the benefits of being a fisherman. Gongsun Liang clapped his hands and stood up. Has your excellency never doubted the Sky Patrol? The slightly fat master asked. There are not many forces in Shan County that can send out such a master. Do you have any evidence? Maybe it's a master that Meng Feng made friends with outside? Gongsun Liang shook his head. Now it's confusing and no one can tell clearly. He didn't want to see it clearly. He just wanted to watch the show. Let the chef cook a dish for this fish tomorrow. Gongsun Liang was in a very good mood. He put his hands behind his back and slowly went back to his room to sleep. Chapter 128 Waterway, Mountain and River Patrol. Due to Meng Feng's special situation, Qin Yang had no way to take him in. Once the people of the patrol knew about Meng Feng's existence, there might be complications. In desperation, Qin Yang could only make a big detour and went directly to the back mountain of the patrol, the dense forest where he usually practiced. This place is quite secretive, and generally no one would come here. Besides, Qin Yang also built a wooden house forest here, which came in handy. Meng Feng had just been attacked by sonic waves and was completely unconscious, and he had not yet woken up. Qin Yang put him on the mattress and locked the wooden window before leaving. Half an incense stick later, he brought Lu Shengaiyu to the cabin. The situation is very bad. He was seriously injured, and his brain was also hit by sonic waves. After checking Meng Feng's injuries, Lu Shengaiyu frowned slightly. Then it's none of my business. Anyway, I brought him back alive. Qin Yang was very calm. He could tell from Lu Shengaiyu's tone. The other party must be reluctant to let Meng Feng die. Lu Shengaiyu took out a pill unhappily and fed it into Meng Feng's mouth. With a little force, Meng Feng swallowed it down his throat. You should not have been exposed by rescuing Meng Feng this time. Lu Shengaiyu asked. Not in terms of appearance, but they will suspect us to some extent. Qin Yang said indifferently. That's fine. These family forces are obsessed with interests and lawless. Without solid evidence, they will not stop. Lu Shengaiyu sneered. Qin Yang did not refute. He also felt that the Han family would not stop. According to Meng Feng, the case of manufacturing weapons also involves the other Shore religion. It's a pity that he was discovered when he was sneaking in, and the clues should have been destroyed. Qin Yang said regretfully. Lu Shengaiyu smiled and said, this is easier to investigate. We don't need to investigate the place where the Han family made the workshop. When the Han family made military equipment, they either transported it to the other Shore religion themselves, or the other Shore religion sent people to pick it up. There is always a transportation channel between the two. Qin Yang understood. The deputy chief wants to start with the transportation channel. Lu Shengaiyu nodded and said, military equipment is usually very large. Either it is covered by caravan escort vehicles, or it is transported by water. Qin Yang's deep eyes flashed with a gleam. Deputy Chief Lu, do you have a map near Shan County? This one does. You keep an eye on Meng Feng here first. I'll go get it. Lu Shengaiyu acted decisively and immediately walked out of the wooden house to get the map. Ahem, at this time, it might be that Lu Shenggai's pill took effect. The unconscious Meng Feng woke up. Master Qin. Meng Feng called weakly. You rest first, don't worry. Lu Shengai will be here later. Qin Yang said softly. Meng Feng nodded and closed his eyes to rest. After a while, Lu Shengai returned with the map. Qin Yang moved a rough wooden table to the bed, spread the map flat, and then helped Meng Feng up. Meng Feng, you found 2 Han family workshops in total. Point them out to us. Qin Yang said softly. Meng Feng nodded. Even though he was in a very bad state and his brain was in pain from time to time, he forced himself to point to 2 places on the map. Seeing these 2 places, Lu Shengai and Qin Yang immediately understood. It seems that the Han family should have transported the weapons out by water. Qin Yang said seriously. The 2 workshops are both close to river tributaries. Waterways are indeed safer than roads, not to mention that Yangning Prefecture has developed waterways and river tributaries everywhere, so you can send them anywhere you want. Lu Shengai nodded. As long as we can find out what ship is transporting, we can follow the clues. Qin Yang pondered. Now Meng Feng is like this, it is definitely impossible to investigate. Only you can do it. Lu Shengai smiled. That will definitely be no problem. Add another 200 contribution points. Qin Yang grinned. You young man, don't care about these gains and losses. You still have a long life ahead of you. Lu Shengai shook his head. I care about it. Will you give it to me? If not, find someone else to do it. Qin Yang rolled his eyes. Give it to me. Add the previous 500 contribution points, that's 700 contribution points. Lu Yusheng said helplessly. In the current Zhuxi department, the only person he trusts and is capable of completing this task is Han Qianyu. As the head of the Zhuxi department, Han Qianyu is busy with affairs and cannot get away. He can only rely on Qin Yang. Even if he wants to do it himself, it won't work. Now that the undercurrents are surging in Shan County City, he, as the deputy chief, must stay in the Zunshan division. Then I will leave immediately. Qin Yang laughed. It's not safe for Meng Feng to be here alone. Call Song Lingzi over later and ask him to take care of it for a few days. Lu Shengai said again. I can't get him to do it. Qin Yang shook his head. Don't give me that. Tell him, 100 contribution points, he can do it if he wants. Lu Shengai said in a deep voice. Then you can ask. Qin Yang nodded. Lu Shengai had something to do, so he left first. Qin Yang asked Meng Feng to rest, and he went to the Sky Patrol to find Song Lingzi. Only 100 contribution points? What a miser. Song Lingzi muttered in dissatisfaction. Then will you do it? Qin Yang asked. Do whatever is easy to do. Song Lingzi smiled. Then go over quickly. I have to go to the city to investigate later. Qin Yang said lightly. Don't worry, with me, Song Lingzi. Here, I will never let Meng Feng get into an accident. Song Lingzi promised. One night passed. Outside the suburbs of Shan County, there is a village. This village is called Nan Village. It is because there is a tributary of the Bijiang River about a few miles south of this village, which is called Huankang River by the locals. On this day, a young man with a sallow complexion and a mole at the corner of his mouth came to the vicinity of Nan Village. This is Qin Yang in disguise. He learned this technique from Wang Qishan when he was in Rock City. Generally, if you don't observe carefully, you won't find any flaws. He entered Nan Village and asked around, and soon got the clues he wanted. According to the villagers, there is a manor by the Huankang River, where a family surnamed Guo lives, with more than a dozen people living there. But for a period of time, the manor was closed, and few people came out. Just yesterday, Guo Jiazhuang accidentally flooded. The huge manor was burned to ashes. Needless to say, the so-called Guo Jiazhuang is where the Han family made military equipment. As for the accidental flood, it was naturally created by the Han family to eliminate evidence. And what Qin Yang wants to investigate is whether there have been any ships here in the Huankang River recently. But even if you ask the villagers of Nan Village, none of them can give Qin Yang an accurate clue. However, the villagers did provide Qin Yang with a clue. Recently, some bandits can be seen from time to time in the Huankang River area. The villagers are so scared that they dare only fish in the nearby waters and cannot go out too far. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129, Caught Red-Handed. This clue caught Qin Yang's attention. You know, Huankang River is not a big river, nor is it an important tributary of the river. Generally, there will be no merchant ships or official ships passing by. Most of the time, there are only some fishing boats. These fishermen have only a few dollars. To put it bluntly, it is impossible for the water bandits to fancy fishermen, and robbing is a waste of time. Some villagers also identified that this group of water bandits was the famous one-eyed water bandits in Bijiang. The boss of the one-eyed water bandits is called Luo Dayan. This guy's notorious in Bijiang. It is said that he grew up in a water bandit's nest since he was a child and has a cruel and ruthless personality. Later, in a water battle, he was shot through the right eye by an arrow, leaving only the left eye, but he still charged forward with a steel knife and made a name for himself. Later, even the original boss was beheaded by him. After that, he led a group of water bandits to wreak havoc in Bijiang, robbing merchant ships and official ships passing through Bijiang. It is said that the county government tried to eliminate the one-eyed bandits several times, but failed once. Luo Dayan is still a powerful figure in Bijiang. After hearing about the details of the one-eyed bandit, Qin Yang felt even more strange. With such a force, how could the one-eyed bandit come to a small place like Huankang River? The one-eyed bandit may be transporting weapons to the other side of the sects for the Han family. Qin Yang guessed in his heart. This is undoubtedly the most reasonable explanation. He thought about it, spent 5 taels of silver to buy a fishing boat from the villagers of Nan village, and propped up a bamboo pole, following the direction of the water flow, and swept towards the main vein of Bijiang River. According to the villagers of Nan, the lair of the one-eyed bandit is easy to find, on an isolated island in Bijiang. This isolated island is easy to defend, and difficult to attack, and it is also a natural port. Luo Dayan relied on this isolated island to continuously develop his power, so that he could develop the one-eyed bandit to the current level. In the spacious and calm Bijiang River, an isolated island stood quietly. On this isolated island, there is also a village with a large flag hanging. The flag fluttered with the river wind, revealing a ferocious one eye. This is the symbol of the one-eyed bandits. Below the village is a natural port where several large ships and dozens of small boats are docked. It is quite large. Luo Dayan stood on a hillside on the isolated island, looking at the many ships docked at the port, and smiled happily. Boss, the Han family's goods are very tricky. If you leave them here, something might go wrong. The second leader of the one-eyed bandits is a strong man, and he also has only one eye left. Since Luo Dayan became the boss, he has issued an order. All his men must poke out one eye. Otherwise, they will be beheaded and thrown down to feed the fish. This is why the one-eyed bandits got their name. I heard that the Han family's base was discovered, so they asked us to transport the goods overnight. Now that the base has been burned down, who can find it? In a few days, the other side of the sect will send people to take away this batch of goods. Don't worry. Luo Dayan disagreed. The second leader finally felt relieved after hearing this. How about this? We won't go to the river to rob in the next few days. You arrange more brothers to patrol the port, and there should be people day and night. In addition to being ruthless, Luo Dayan has another advantage in being able to get to where he is now. That is, he listens to advice. The second leader clasped his fists and said, "Then I will arrange more people to go to the port." After the second leader left, Luo Dayan narrowed his eyes. He was calculating in his mind how much money he could make this time. It was late at night. The cold river wind blew on the isolated island port. Several one-eyed bandits who were patrolling shuddered. Forget it. It's so late. Find a better place and make a bonfire to keep warm, a bandit leader said. As bandits, even if the boss repeatedly ordered them, but they are still bandits after all, how could they patrol honestly all night? After lighting the bonfire, another bandit took the river fish caught today and roasted it on the bonfire. Soon the fragrance floated. Hualala, the river water kept surging on the isolated island. A few miles away from the isolated island, a figure was quietly swimming in the cold and deep waters. Qin Yang's practice of beaming black water true skill made him feel no discomfort after entering the water, and he was extremely adapted to the deep water environment. Half an hour later, Qin Yang quietly landed on the edge of the port of the isolated island. With the cover of the reef, he just heard some conversations coming from the river breeze. "Do you know what the cargo was transported last night?" "I don't know. It's always very mysterious." "Boss, don't keep it a secret." "Then you must not tell anyone." "Those are all boxes of military equipment and crossbows." Several bandits were sitting around the campfire, eating grilled fish, bragging and chatting. They were all shocked when they heard the words of the bandit leader. "Military equipment and crossbows? This is something that will cost you your head." The bandit leader sneered. "Do you think you won't lose your head if you become a bandit?" Tonight, the bandit leader's mouth may have been blessed. The next second, his head really fell off, with a plop, falling into the bonfire. The remaining bandits felt a chill on their necks before they could react. A few plops. Several heads fell to the ground at the same time. The headless bodies kept bleeding and twitching. "Since you like losing heads so much, I'll let you lose one," Qin Yang muttered. After killing these bandits, Qin Yang remembered their conversation, quickly threw the bodies into the water, and then jumped onto a large ship in the port. These large ships were naturally guarded by bandits, but now they were all sleeping soundly in the cabins. Qin Yang lurked in the cabin room, without even pulling out his knife, and lightly punched a bandit in the heart. It seemed that no sound was made, but the bandit's mouth was bleeding, and his heart was completely shattered by a punch. After that, it was repeated continuously. More than a dozen bandits died quietly in their dreams. After killing people, Qin Yang walked back to the deck. There were dark boxes placed here. Qin Yang opened a box at random. Inside was a dense mass of crossbows and arrows. "Looks like we are lucky. We really caught the criminals red-handed this time." Qin Yang smiled slightly. He thought that maybe the Han family's stronghold was destroyed too suddenly, and the one-eyed bandit had not yet transferred the weapons. Next, Qin Yang went to several other large ships. He quietly dealt with the pirates on the ships. The second leader, Gu Zhen, was cautious by nature. He brought his men to the port in the middle of the night and wanted to patrol. He knew the nature of his men too well, and they would definitely be lazy. He couldn't do it without scolding them. But of course, after walking around the port, he didn't see any trace of his men. "What's going on? Why are all the people gone?" Gu Zhen growled. He thought these guys went back to sleep. "Second leader, come here quickly." Suddenly, a cry broke the silence of the isolated island. Chapter 130, Alone. Gu Zhen heard his men screaming, and hurriedly led them over. In the dark waters, more than a dozen bodies were seen floating, and the nearby waters were dyed red. "Someone is attacking. Send a signal quickly." Gu Zhen's face changed drastically, and he shouted hurriedly. He didn't expect that someone would really lurk in the isolated island in the middle of the river. The person who was able to deal with so many water bandits silently must be extraordinary. The water bandit following behind him quickly took out a special bamboo whistle and blew it directly. At this moment, the originally deadly village became noisy, and countless fires lit up. Luo Dayan, who was sleeping soundly, heard the whistle, jumped out of bed directly, casually put on a black robe, and walked out of the house. "Who blew the whistle?" Luo Dayan growled irritably. "Big leader." The whistle sound came from the port. It just so happens that the second leader just took people to patrol. A minion said quickly. "What?" Luo Dayan's face changed drastically. "So, something must have happened at the port. Quick, everyone follow me. Also, bring my weapons." Luo Dayan was extremely anxious. Soon, two minions came over with a mace covered with sharp iron spikes. Luo Dayan picked up the ferocious weapon with one hand and quickly went down the mountain with his minions. The bandits who were originally at a loss saw Luo Dayan, which was equivalent to finding a backbone. They followed him with steel blades in hand. When everyone arrived at the port, they saw Gu Zhen with a dozen people, holding weapons, looking nervously at a large ship, docked at the port. Luo Dayan also raised his head. "I saw a strong and majestic figure standing on the bow deck, carrying a long sword on his back, his eyes as deep as the sea. One man guards the pass, and 10,000 men cannot open it." Seeing this figure, this phrase suddenly appeared in the minds of many one-eyed bandits. Big leader. It was this man who sneaked into the isolated island in the middle of the night and killed many brothers. After I asked someone to blow the whistle, this man emerged from the deck of the big ship, but he didn't make any moves. I saw that this man was very powerful, so I didn't dare to act rashly, so I confronted him. Guzen said quickly. Luo Dayan's only remaining eye flashed with a sinister light. Who are you? Qin Yang looked at the hundreds of bandits below and said calmly, you are Luo Dayan, right? It's your grandfather. Luo Dayan said coldly. Finally, I've waited for you to show up. Qin Yang finally moved. He stepped on the ground and jumped from the deck of the big ship like a flying swallow, swooping towards Luo Dayan. Come on. Whoever kills this man, I'll reward you with 500 taels of silver. Luo Dayan roared. When many bandits heard the 500 taels of silver, their breathing became rapid, their eyes glowed red, and they seemed to have lost their minds. They raised the steel blades in their hands and killed Qin Yang. People die for money, and birds die for food. Once these 500 taels of silver were paid out, it was enough to drive these water bandits completely crazy. Qin Yang looked calm and rushed into the water bandits with big strides. Bang, bang, bang. It was like a dragon elephant with unparalleled divine power rushing into a flock of sheep. Qin Yang waved his arms and kept hitting, and one figure after another screamed and flew out like a cannonball. The water bandits hit by his arms had their bones and internal organs broken, lying on the ground screaming wildly, spitting blood. They looked alive, but they were actually dead. Completely crushed. Luo Dayan, who was hiding behind, looked horrified. He didn't understand Qin Yang's moves at all. This person seemed to have infinite power and was as fast as lightning. Without any moves, he could knock several water bandits away by sweeping his arms forward. After a dozen breaths, there were nearly 100 bodies lying on the entire stone beach. The remaining water bandits were scared to death by Qin Yang's invincible and violent posture, and they didn't dare to get close at all. At this time, a flash of knife light suddenly appeared from behind Qin Yang, slashing at his head quickly and fiercely. Guzen, the second in command of the one-eyed bandit, quietly attacked, trying to give Qin Yang a fatal blow. Qin Yang still did not draw his knife. When the blade slashed out with a slight sound of wind, he twisted his waist and punched sideways. Under Guzen's horrified eyes, Qin Yang broke his long knife with one punch. At the same time, a huge force suddenly shook him, making him feel as if his entire arm was torn off. Bang. Qin Yang's left hand also hit out with a palm. He saved the power of this palm and hit Guzen's temple, knocking him unconscious. Bang. A mace hit him hard on the back of his head. Luo Dayan seemed to have used some kind of explosive secret method, which suddenly accelerated, so that Qin Yang could not react. Impossible. Luo Dayan, who succeeded in the sneak attack, screamed loudly, with fear on his face. Qin Yang's body was wrapped in a deep and cold blue airflow. Just now, his mace was hitting these dark blue air currents, as if it had violently collided with some hard scales. Qin Yang's body was only slightly shaken, but Luo Dayan felt an extremely cold breath coming. Qin Yang turned around suddenly and hit the thunder palm like lightning. Boom! Exclamation mark. The perfect thunder palm was hit. Luo Dayan felt a thunder in his ears. After all, he was a true Qi warrior. He could barely see Qin Yang's palm urge the true Qi, and the mace was smashed like a mountain collapsing. A palm hit the mace hard. The sharp iron spikes on it were smashed by a palm. Luo Dayan couldn't even control the mace, and it flew out of his hand. Qin Yang grinned and slapped Luo Dayan in the face. The terrifying power instantly deformed Luo Dayan's facial features, and at the same time, the whole person was fainted by the huge force. Put down the weapon. Qin Yang held Luo Dayan, whose face was covered with blood, and looked at the one-eyed bandit nearby, and said coldly. All the bandits were scared out of their wits. Even though Qin Yang was alone, no one dared to resist. They put down their weapons and knelt down to beg for mercy. As long as this is an isolated island, you can't run away, even if you want to. Qin Yang thought about it, then took out a yellow talisman from his arms and tore it into pieces. This is a special talisman for the evil killers. As long as it is torn, Lu Shanghai can lock his position. He did this naturally, to notify the people from the patrol sky division to come over. It would be troublesome to deal with so many bandits. About 2 hours later, the sky was dim. A light boat was rippling with water ripples and approached the isolated island quickly. On the light boat, Lu Shengaiyu stood at the bow, and behind him were Zhang Zhao and several old evil killers. I thought this kid was in trouble. Lu Shengaiyu saw the waiting figure on the stone beach and laughed and scolded. The talisman cannot convey any information, it can only provide location information. Even though Lu Shengaiyu knew that Qin Yang would probably be fine, he thought about it and came in person. Deputy Chief, what mission is Qin Yang carrying out now? Zhang Zhao asked curiously. A huge case. You will understand in a moment. Lu Shengaiyu did not reveal too much. Soon, the light boat stopped at the rocky beach of the isolated island. Qin Yang was waiting on the rocky beach, with Gu Zhen and Luo Dayan next to him. The two of them were now awake, lying on the ground, with their hands and feet strangely bent. Anyway, one is a key gathering warrior, and the other is a true key warrior. This injury will not kill him. Chapter 131 Plan. Seeing Lu Shengaiyu coming with Zhang Zhao and others, Qin Yang breathed a sigh of relief. He was most afraid that Lu Shengaiyu would come here alone. Then he would have to make another trip and waste time. Good boy, I didn't expect to find this place so quickly. Lu Shengaiyu laughed. Seeing Qin Yang's posture, he knew that he must have made a great harvest. Zhang Zhao and others behind him were surprised, because they saw that the stone beach was covered with tragic corpses. Now there were crabs smelling the smell of rotten meat, crawling on the corpses, eating happily. This stone beach must have experienced a bloody storm last night. These guys are very arrogant, it's not difficult to find them. Qin Yang shook his head. Tell me about the situation. Lu Shengaiyu said solemnly. These two are the leader and second leader of the one-eyed bandits. These days, they are secretly transporting goods for the Han family and handing them over to the other side. During the waiting time, Qin Yang has asked a lot of questions. Well, you raided this isolated island last night, and no one should have escaped. Lu Shengaiyu asked. No one should have escaped. The ship of this one-eyed pirate is docked at this port. I have been watching here since last night. As for the surviving pirates, I have driven them into the cabin of a large ship. Qin Yang said lightly. Lu Shengaiyu was relieved when he heard this. Now he was afraid that the news had leaked out, which made the Han family prepared. The weapons made by the Han family are now placed on the deck of the large ship. In a few days, the Church of the Other Shore will send a ship to take them away. Qin Yang whispered. Will the people of the Church of the Other Shore come again? Lu Shengaiyu was slightly stunned. Well, according to Luo Dayan, the Church of the Other Shore will send more than a dozen ships to transport these weapons to various places in Shan County. Qin Yang said. They were all handed over on the river before. Because the Han family's base was discovered this time, Luo Dayan hurriedly transported the last batch of weapons over, and the Church of the Other Shore could not mobilize so many ships for the time being. Luo Dayan transported the things back and planned to hand them over to the people of the Church of the Other Shore on the isolated island. Qin Yang explained. This is a bargain for us. Lu Shengaiyu had a plan in mind and sneered. Then he and Qin Yang boarded the boat and opened the wooden box to confirm. When he saw the crossbows and arrows, Lu Shengaiyu smiled even more. This time we caught the criminal red-handed. I wonder how Han Baojing can quibble. Lu Shengaiyu picked up a crossbow and smiled. After that, Lu Shengaiyu thought alone for a while. He left Zhang Zhao and others to guard the surviving bandits. He and Qin Yang took Luo Dayan and Gu Zhen to leave in a light boat. Qin Yang held the bamboo pole at the bow. Lu Shengaiyu took advantage of this time to continue interrogating Luo Dayan and Gu Zhen. My surname is Lu, Deputy Chief of the Patrol Department. Lu Shengaiyu said lightly. Hearing Lu Shengaiyu's words, Luo Dayan and Gu Zhen smiled bitterly. This Deputy Chief Lu. It seems that smuggling arms and combating bandits are not the responsibility of your patrol department. Why did you come to us? Luo Dayan said in astonishment. Who told you to collude with the Other Shore religion? This collusion with a cult is a capital crime. At that time, not to mention death. Even if you die, there will be spiritual masters who will break up your spirits and completely scatter your souls. Lu Shengaiyu said lightly. The people of the Dao dynasty are very superstitious about reincarnation. Death is death, and after reincarnation, you can be a human again. but scattering your soul is much more vicious. Deputy Chief Lu, just tell me what you want to know. Luo Dayan admitted defeat. Falling into the hands of the Patrol Sky Division, this organization has too many things that can make him speak. Especially those spiritual masters. Luo Dayan has seen how spiritual masters torture people. That scene is horrifying when he thinks about it. Will the Han family keep in touch with you every day? Lu Shengaiu asked. Luo Dayan shook his head. No, they usually only send people when there is work to do. Lu Shengaiu was happy. This is the answer he wanted. After that, he asked a few more questions, and Luo Dayan answered them all honestly. Quietly, the boat landed on the shore. Qin Yang, go to your cabin first. It's not convenient to take these two back. Lu Shengaiu walked out of the deck and lowered his voice. Then you probably have to give Song Lingzi a high reward. Otherwise, that guy won't do it. Qin Yang said lightly. Okay, give him another 100. Lu Shengaiu said helplessly. After getting ashore, Qin Yang first went to find a carriage and took Luo Dayan and the other two to the back mountain of the patrol department. Lu Shengaiu returned to the patrol department alone. Another 100? Lu Shengaiu is too stingy. Shouldn't it be 100 contribution points per person? This should be 200. In the cabin, Song Lingzi muttered. You watch first. Go to him to raise the price when you see him later. Qin Yang said lightly. Okay, aren't they just two pirates? Song Lingzi smiled. I'll leave the people to you. Nothing can happen. Qin Yang instructed. After Lu Shengaiu asked him to settle the two people, he immediately returned to the patrol department. Hurry up and leave. The Taoist doesn't want to see you yet. Song Lingzi waved his hand. When Qin Yang returned to the Sky Patrol Division and came to Lu Shengaiu's courtyard, he found Han Qianyu there. Both parties nodded. When you were not here, Qianyu and I explained the whole thing clearly. Lu Shengaiu said in a deep voice. Then it seems that Deputy Chief Lu has made some arrangements. Qin Yang smiled and said, sit down and talk. I have a rough idea of this plan. I plan to let Qianyu lead people to guard the Bijiang Island, waiting for the people from the other shore sect to come and attack secretly. When Qianyu takes action, you immediately take people to attack the Han family. I want both sides. Lu Shengaiu's appetite is very big. He actually wants to swallow up the other shore sect and the Han family at the same time. This plan seems to be very risky, but Lu Shengaiu thinks it is feasible. He bets that the Han family and the other shore sect are not clear about the situation on the Bijiang Island. What if there is an unexpected situation? Qin Yang asked. So from now on, you have to keep an eye on the Han family. Whenever the Han family makes any unusual moves, you must strike first. Don't worry about anything. Lu Shengaiu said in a deep voice. He naturally thought of this. After all, some things are unpredictable. He can't control the other side of the sect for the time being, but the Han family is in Shan County. He must die this time no matter what. That will cost more money. Qin Yang said with a smile. I knew you would say that to me. I will give you another 300 contribution points. After completing this mission, a total of 1000 contribution points. This is the biggest reward I can give as a deputy chief. I even have to write a detailed letter to Yangning Patrol to explain the situation afterwards. Lu Shengaiu said helplessly. Qin Yang is a useful guy, but this guy will never suffer a loss. If you ask him to do something, he won't bother to pay attention to you if you don't give him benefits. Chapter 132 Rainy Night. Qin Yang thought that 1000 contribution points was almost the limit of Lu Shengaiu. In the Sky Patrol Division, the most precious thing was the contribution points, which could be exchanged for martial arts elixirs. In order to prevent people from embezzling, the Sky Patrol Division has established a very strict review system. Lu Shengaiu is only a deputy director now. Giving Qin Yang 1000 contribution points at once was really a huge investment. That's no problem. I guarantee that Han Baocheng will not be able to escape. Qin Yang smiled. Go and keep an eye on Han Baocheng right away. And keep this talisman. Once it burns, no matter what the opportunity, immediately attack Han Baocheng. Lu Shengaiu took out another talisman. Qin Yang put away the talisman and said goodbye. I can't see through Qin Yang. Han Qianyu suddenly said. From the information He has always been a rich young man who lives a life of idleness and waiting for death. When his father disappeared unexpectedly, his temperament changed drastically. He suddenly learned martial arts and rose rapidly from then on. Now, in less than a year, he has become a true key warrior. Han Qianyu said these words, not because she was jealous of Qin Yang. It's just that Qin Yang's talent is so evil that it's hard not to look at him sideways. Lu Shengyu smiled slightly. Don't worry about Qin Yang's past. As long as he takes money to do things and can get things done, it's fine. Han Qianyu nodded slightly. After that, the two of them seriously discussed how to ambush the other Shaw sect and how to wipe out the Han family. This time, Lu Shengyu planned to take it all by himself and did not intend to let the Zunming department and the Bingyu department participate. In this way, the manpower of the Xuexi department would be very tight and needed to be mobilized in advance. After Qin Yang disguised himself, he checked into an inn in Shan County. This inn was not far from the Han family. As long as he climbed up the eaves, he could observe the movements of the Han family from afar. The Han family is naturally a mansion that covers a large area. Qin Yang looked over and saw that there were many buildings and houses. The Han family is one of the 5 major families in Shan County and controls most of the blacksmith shops in the city. The head of the family, Han Baocheng, is a Genki warrior, and his mountain-breaking hammer technique is quite powerful. In addition, the Han family has 3 Zenki warriors. One of them is Han Dang, the leader of the Han family guards, who was killed by me. There is also a man named Han Yan, who is now head of the government office. The last one is called Han Angjing, the eldest son of Han Baocheng and the future successor of the Han family. Qin Yang sat on the eaves, recalling the information about the Han family. In addition, there is a mysterious spiritual master. The last time Qin Yang rescued Meng Feng, he fought with the spiritual master, and the other party escaped. The power of this Han family is really big. There are people in both the black and white worlds, and even Genki warriors. No wonder they dare to be so arrogant. Qin Yang murmured in a low voice. This is just one of the 5 major families. Once the fight starts, there is no guarantee that the other 5 major families will send people to support. But this is not within Qin Yang's consideration. This is what Lu Shengyu should consider. He just needs to take action against the Han family. Concentrating these messy thoughts, Qin Yang did not waste any time and sat cross-legged on the eaves to practice the beaming black water true skill. The deep and extremely cold beaming black water true ki flows quietly in the body, forming a terrible pressure. But he himself did not leak out any ki. After daytime, Qin Yang would wander around the Han mansion, always paying attention to the unusual movements of the Han mansion. Every day he would put on a different makeup to avoid being noticed. At night, he would observe from the eaves of the inn and practice by the way. 3 days later, at night, dark clouds were densely covered in the night sky like cotton wool, and cold wind blew. Dark, depressing. The cold wind kept blowing Qin Yang's clothes. He opened his eyes. Is it going to rain? Suddenly, he felt a heat in his chest. He took out a talisman. The talisman was seen burning slightly, and then quickly turned into ashes. The raindrops fell on his face. Finally, we are going to do it. Qin Yang grinned, and suddenly jumped down from the eaves of the inn. He quickly approached the Han mansion, and climbed over the wall. To catch a thief, you must first catch the leader. He thought about dealing with Han Baocheng first, so that he could save a lot of trouble. Even on rainy days, the guards and patrols in the Han mansion did not slack off, holding umbrellas and patrolling diligently. They did not notice that a figure turned into black light and quickly rushed through the mansion. With the speed of fleeting light, plus Qin Yang's perception and reaction ability, the guards of the Han family could not detect his existence at all. Han Baocheng naturally lived deep in the mansion. But when Qin Yang passed through a garden, he was slightly stunned. He felt as if he was being stared at by something. Your Excellency, why are you visiting me in the middle of the night? A man with a bamboo flute and dark circles under his eyes appeared deep in the corridor of the garden. Spiritual Master, I knew it wouldn't be that easy. Qin Yang shook his head gently. He knew that the other party must have arranged some means in the Han mansion, and he must have triggered something to be discovered. The strange means of the spiritual master are indeed difficult to guard against. You should be the one who rescued Meng Feng last time. the black-eyed man said softly. Qin Yang is now wearing a nightgown. Judging from his height and body shape, he is exactly the same as the one who rescued Meng Feng. You ran quite fast last time. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you now? Qin Yang smiled. This is my Han family. You can't be so presumptuous. An old man shouted angrily. A strong old man came out with a round heavy hammer in both hands. It was the head of the Han family, Han Baocheng. In addition, two more powerful figures appeared behind Qin Yang. They were Han Yan and Han Angjing, the eldest son of the Han family. At the same time, a large number of guards armed with weapons rushed into the garden. In the pouring cold rain, Qin Yang was completely surrounded. It seems that you have discovered me a long time ago. You just want to attack me in the garden. Qin Yang said lightly. Your Qin Yang is indeed amazing. But no matter how fast the Qin Yang is, it will be useless. I have already set up a large formation in the Han mansion, and I know everything here. The black-eyed man smiled. You rescued Meng Feng before, and now you broke into my Han mansion late at night. What do you want to do? Han Baocheng looked at Qin Yang and shouted. Want to kill people? Qin Yang said seriously. In fact, you shouldn't have discovered me. Otherwise, you will only die more people. Why bother? Han Baocheng didn't expect Qin Yang to be so arrogant after being surrounded, and sneered. It seems that you are not going to say it. Go. Hearing Han Baocheng's words, the guards of the Han family roared and rushed towards Qin Yang. Those who can be guards in the Han family are at least condensed warriors with swift and powerful movements. Several guard leaders even had key gathering skills. In the rainy night, figures flickered, and a flash of cold knife light slashed at Qin Yang. Qin Yang suddenly pulled out the Lingyu knife and slashed it casually, with a clang. When the Lingyu knife landed on a guard leader, sparks burst out. Chapter 133 Young. Chainmail. Qin Yang felt a hard collision from the Lingyu sword and was stunned. This should be a kind of armor, lighter than iron armor, but more complicated to make. He never thought that the Han family could even make such a thing. It seems that I really underestimated your Han family. Qin Yang sneered. His sword only chopped the guard leader away. The next moment, dozens of sword lights tore through the wind and rain and slashed towards Qin Yang fiercely. Then, these Han mansion guards felt an extremely cold deep blue breath suddenly spread on Qin Yang. The wind and rain seemed to gather in Qin Yang, turning into a vicious and sinister black armored dragon. Their sharp blades fell on this evil dragon, as if chopping on hard iron armor. There was even an extremely cold breath coming from the blade, making them feel as if their hands fell into ice water and became stiff and cold. Hunyuan Qi. This magical power formed by the Hunyuan cover. As Qin Yang's cultivation continued to improve, the martial arts he practiced became more and more profound, and it became more and more terrifying. Kill. Qin Yang roared, and the Lingyu sword turned into a solemn and cold knife light, overlapping, and slashed out with the deep and cold beaming black water key. Podjan forest force. The dense knife light slashed by Qin Yang's sword even suppressed the dozens of Han family guards. One after another, the figures were slashed and flew away. Even with chainmail, the beaming black water key quickly invaded the body. This key was too cold and overbearing. Even the key gathering warriors would be frozen, and their blood would be cold all over. Frost would even appear on their skin, and their bodies would be stiff and unable to move. This key is so terrifying. Han Baocheng's face was heavy. Father, let's go together. Han Angjing looked at Qin Yang's domineering and ferocious figure and shouted. These guards were carefully trained by their Han family, and they spent a lot of money. If they didn't make a move, they would all be killed by Qin Yang. Don't underestimate this man. Master, please stay behind us. Han Baocheng whispered. After that, he rushed out like a wild bear with a sledgehammer in his hand. Die. Han Baocheng's powerful voice penetrated the rainy night. His old body actually bulged with strong muscles, and his size suddenly increased. Mountain collapse lightning meteor. The heavy hammer in his hand violently slammed towards Qin Yang. The rain was squeezed into mist by the heavy hammer. Dragon elephant millions of destroyed mountains. Qin Yang finally showed a solemn look. Han Baocheng is indeed old and strong. Just based on this hammer, Qin Yang concluded that he is stronger than Ji Guan of the Blackfish Tower. This kind of brute force is really amazing. His left hand also swelled up suddenly, and he punched a mountain breaking punch. Boom. It collided with Han Baoshen's heavy hammer. A circle of mist dispersed out of thin air. At the same time, Qin Yang could feel a heavy ki pressing towards him. He quickly activated the Han Yuan ki and blocked the ki, but he stepped back a few steps. At the same time, Han Yan and Han Angjing finally made their move. Han Angjing, like his father, used a sledgehammer as his weapon. He swung his hands and smashed Qin Yang's head like a meteorite. Han Yan used a long knife, which turned into a ray of cold light, cut through the wind and rain, and stabbed Qin Yang's heart. Both were key warriors, with fast speed and explosive power, and they were all heading for Qin Yang's vital points. You want to take my life too? Qin Yang grinned, and the Lingyu knife turned into a streak and slashed backwards. Podgen falling mountain. Breaking force with force. Han Angjing had been tempering his ki in blood since he was a child. He didn't know how many spiritual medicines he had eaten, and his strength was amazing. But this time, he only felt like a deep wave was rushing towards him. The palms of his hands were numb, and the sledgehammer in his hands was suddenly smashed down. Ah! Han Angjing screamed. He couldn't control the falling hammer at all, and it hit his calf hard. He didn't have Qin Yang's terrifying horizontal training kicking, and his whole calf was twisted and broken by the hammer. Bang! Han Yan's long knife stabbed Qin Yang's chest fiercely. The black armored evil dragon transformed by the primordial ki roared and screamed at him. The fierce and extremely cold spirit made Han Yan feel cold in his heart. Then, the black armored evil dragon suddenly turned into a cold air and exploded. Han Yan instantly felt his blood and ki frozen. Qin Yang grinned, and his left hand blasted out like thunder. Bang! In the rainy night, it seemed like a thunderbolt fell. The people in the houses near Han's mansion were awakened. What a big thunder! Why is there only thunder but no lightning? Of course there is lightning before thunder, but this thunder is too loud. Many people looked at the wind and rain outside, horrified. The thunder blocked Han Yan's screams. He was hit in the chest by Qin Yang's palm and flew backwards, as if struck by lightning. Han Baocheng was about to kill him, but was bumped into by Han Yan. He had no choice but to take Han Yan down. You. Han Baocheng looked at Qin Yang, his blood boiling, and his face flushed. Han Ang's calf was crippled by Qin Yang, and he was a cripple from then on. How could he, as a father, accept this? Exclamation mark. He roared with resentment and madness, and a sledgehammer smashed out like a meteor. Qin Yang smiled and rushed forward with Lingyu knife. Boom. The terrifying and fierce sound of the collision. Lingyu knife and heavy hammer collided quickly, generating a terrible gale. The clothes of both were torn apart by the gale in an instant, revealing a terrible and strong missile. Han Baocheng's muscles seemed to be as hard as iron, and his blood became stronger with age. He covered his sledgehammer and smashed wildly. Qin Yang's skin was as white as a white jade god. He used the evil dragon swallowing evil knife technique, which splashed fine water mist in the rainy night, just like an evil dragon turning the river upside down. When the knife light trembled, it seemed like there was a dragon roaring. The whole garden was shrouded in grey mist. The broken stones of the rockery kept exploding and shooting into the houses. Some people in the Han family were innocently affected and shot through their bodies by the broken stones. Some people were even hit in the vitals and died. Ha ha ha. Qin Yang was getting more and more happy, and the evil spirit on his body became more and more intense. The evil dragon swallowing evil knife is itself an extremely fierce knife technique. Han Baocheng narrowed his eyes, swung the giant hammer suddenly, and smashed Qin Yang more than 10 meters away. Young man, if I were still a dozen years younger, I will definitely fight you to the end. But I'm old now, I can only kill you with one move. Han Baocheng said in a low voice. Come on. Let me see the Han family's collapse mountain hammer technique. Qin Yang grinned. Han Baocheng held the giant hammer in both hands, with his knees bent. Mountain collapse empty flow polar star hammer. Instantly, Han Baocheng jumped high, holding the giant hammer in both hands in the air, and suddenly fell down, as if he had turned into a brilliant polar star. A terrifying feeling of suffocation lingered in Qin Yang's heart. This move of the empty flow polar star hammer made him feel like he was being locked. His eyes were gloomy and dark, and his wrist shook, and the Lingyu sword trembled and made the sound of a dragon's roar. Evil Dragon Black Sea Devouring Wave Kill. Chapter 134 Chess Pieces. The people in Han Mansion instantly realized that they were enveloped by a terrifying evil spirit. The residents nearby all felt palpitations and uneasiness. They seemed to hear the roar of some extremely fierce creature and woke up from their sleep again. What's going on? Why do I hear a sound like a dragon's roar? A middle-aged man woke up. His wife was also awakened, her face pale. Husband, I heard it too. What happened tonight? The man frowned slightly. This question is still floating in the minds of many people. Then there was a terrifying loud noise. In the garden of Han Mansion, a black armored evil dragon phantom roared, waving its claws and constantly hitting a gorgeous polar star. A group of terrible strong wind waves spread, shaking away the rain. This was the first time Qin Yang fought with all his strength. After practicing the evil dragon swallowing evil knife, the Lingyu knife collided with the heavy hammer frantically. The polar star became dimmer and dimmer. The evil dragon became more and more ferocious and ferocious. Han Baocheng's move itself emphasizes one-hit kill. But once you get into a state of anxiety, your strength will gradually weaken. Just when Qin Yang was about to strike a fatal blow, woo woo woo, a strange flute sound suddenly sounded. This slightly disturbed Qin Yang. At the same time, some sharp tearing sounds were heard in his ears. Dozens of bamboo swords appeared strangely and shot towards Qin Yang's back. The black-eyed man finally made a move. I finally waited for you. Qin Yang roared, and his entire figure suddenly turned into a black light. While avoiding the bamboo swords, he swept past Han Baocheng. In the dim corridor, the black-eyed man didn't expect Qin Yang to be able to burst out at such a speed. He seemed to see a ferocious dragon pounce on him. His mind was slightly shocked. It was this subtle shock. He didn't have time to use his means. Puff. A cold light brought up the black-eyed man's head. Bang. Han Baocheng attacked from behind, and the sledgehammer smashed Qin Yang's back. Bang. How terrifying it is for a Genki warrior to strike with all his strength. Even the primordial ki was smashed by the hammer. Qin Yang flew more than 10 meters away and rolled on the ground for a few times. Cough cough cough. Qin Yang felt his blood and ki disordered. Black blood flowed from the corners of his mouth, and his internal organs felt dislocated. Han Baocheng roared wildly, strode over, and smashed down with both hands holding the huge hammer. Qin Yang suddenly flipped up from the ground. His right hand swelled fiercely and hit with a black and extremely cold airflow. Dragon elephant, millions of mountains destroyed. Bang. In Han Baocheng's horrified eyes, Qin Yang's fist suddenly swung the hammer away, and at the same time, a knife fell on Han Baocheng's neck. Master Han, I won. Qin Yang grinned. You are not as good as others. Han Baocheng smiled bitterly. He didn't expect that Qin Yang would have such a terrifying boxing method in addition to the sword method. Qin Yang slowly approached Han Baocheng and hit him on the temple with the palm. Bang. Han Baocheng bled from all 7 orifices and fainted. Han Baocheng was a key warrior, so Qin Yang had to be more ruthless. He lifted Han Baocheng, took a breath and leaped up, heading towards the Shiangsan division. The people in Han Mansion didn't even dare to approach the garden, so how could they have the courage to stop Qin Yang? But at this time, 3 figures appeared on the roof. A middle-aged man with a gloomy face, holding a sword. An old woman holding a snake head stick, wearing bright clothes. A burly man with a strong back and hair tied in a bun. 3 key warriors. Qin Yang's eyes condensed. He roughly guessed the identities of these 3. What a bold boy. Dare to commit a crime in the middle of the night in Shan County. The gloomy man sneered. Qin Yang didn't waste any words, pulled off his veil, and showed a bronze medal. The Patrol of Heaven punishes the evil Qin Yang and is ordered to investigate the case of the Han family colluding with the other Shaw religion. Take the Han family back to the Patrol of Heaven for trial tonight. Anyone who dares to stop them is an accomplice of the Han family. Qin Yang's voice was unusually loud, and all the people nearby were awakened. Every household lit up their lights and wanted to come out to see what was going on. Patrol of Heaven. The old woman's face darkened. She came here specially because she noticed that something happened to the Han family. She didn't expect that this kid was actually from the Patrol of Heaven. The gloomy man frowned slightly. He regretted talking to Qin Yang. He should have taken action directly and didn't give the other party time to speak. Now so many people have heard it. If he really took action against Qin Yang, it would be openly against the Patrol of Heaven. Wait for Zheng Junwei to come. The big man with tied hair said softly. Now he can only wait for Zheng Long to come and suppress Qin Yang as a county lieutenant. At least keep Han Baocheng first. The three people dispersed instantly and did not take action, just to prevent Qin Yang from escaping. Qin Yang was not in a hurry to take action. It was a bit difficult for him to face three key warriors at once. Zheng family. As the head of the 5 major families, the Zheng family had the largest power and deeper foundation. Deep in the mansion, the lights were bright. County Lieutenant Zheng Long was playing chess with a strong old man. On the chessboard, the black and white colors seemed like two armies fighting in close combat, extremely fierce. Deputy Chief Lu, you won this game. Zheng Long was undecided and finally shook his head to admit defeat. Zheng County Lieutenant's chess skills are extraordinary. I was just lucky. Lu Shengaiyu picked up a cup of fragrant tea and blew slightly. I wonder who will win outside the chessboard? Zheng Long narrowed his eyes. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Lu Shengaiyu smiled. He began to pack up the chess pieces and said, Zheng County Lieutenant, how about another game? Zheng Long had no choice but to play another game with Lu Shengaiyu. Tonight, Lu Shengaiyu planned to stare at him. The three old women waited for a long time, but they disappeared without waiting for Zheng Long. At this time, more and more people gathered nearby. Even in the cold moon, many people came out with umbrellas. The patrol department is investigating the case. Anyone who dares to stop us will be considered to be colluding with the other Shaw religion. Qin Yang shouted again. He carried Han Baocheng and rushed towards the patrol department. His head was too big, and the old woman, the gloomy man, and the big man with tied hair did not make a move and watched Qin Yang leave. It was the Han family that was in trouble, not their family. The 5 major families said they were of the same blood, but they were not a family after all. Even Zheng Long did not show his head. Several old foxes did not dare to show their heads. After Qin Yang left, the three people's eyes flickered and they dispersed. Han Baocheng was taken to the patrol department. This matter was not small, and it might even affect their own family. They had to be treated with caution. Why did the patrol department take the head of the Han family away? It seems that the Shan County city is going to be in turmoil again. This time it's really a fight between gods. Many people did not expect to hear such shocking news in the middle of the night. Some spies left one after another. This news was too shocking and had to be reported as soon as possible. That night, many people in Shan County were awakened by this news. In addition to the 5 major families in the city, there were many small and medium-sized forces. Now that the patrol department and the Han family were fighting, these small and medium-sized forces could only send people out to inquire about the news in order to avoid being affected. They wanted to know what happened in the Han mansion. Chapter 135 Blockage. Hualalare Tall and Deep Mansion. The elegant man put his hands behind his back, looking at the rain outside the window, revealing a sinister smile. Finally, I've waited for the opportunity. I'll see how you end up with the patrol of the sky this time. As he spoke, his voice became feminine again. This time the patrol of the sky and the 5 major families collided. Do you want to fish in troubled waters? The elegant man's voice changed back. No, I think this is an opportunity. An opportunity to completely drag the Shan County city into the quagmire. I'm going to completely destroy the patrol of the sky this time. The next moment it turned into a feminine voice again. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. There is a chance. Lu Shengaiyu offended too many people this time. The elegant man said lightly. Zheng Mansion. This chess game is exactly the same as the previous one. Lu Shengaiyu narrowly won half a piece against Zheng Long. Zheng County Lieutenant, thank you for letting me. Lu Shengaiyu smiled. My chess skills are not good. Zheng Long shook his head slightly. Tonight's game ends here. Lu Shengaiyu stood up. This time, Deputy Director Lu took the initiative. Next time, it will be my turn to take the initiative. Zheng Long did not stand up to see him off. He held a black piece in his hand and said lightly, ha ha ha. I will welcome the visit of Zheng Junwei at any time in the patrol department. Lu Shengaiyu laughed and left. After he left, a man in black quietly appeared behind Zheng Long. Sir, Han Baocheng was taken away. The man in black whispered. Was it Li Qihe who did it? Zheng Long had expected it. Of course, when Lu Shengaiyu came to visit in the middle of the night, he knew that something would happen tonight. No. The man in black shook his head. That was Han Kaianayu. I didn't expect her to hide so deeply that even Han Baocheng was no match for her. Zheng Long frowned slightly. It wasn't Han Kaianayu. It was a demon killer named Qin Yang. He broke into Han's house alone, defeated Han Baocheng, and took him away. Wang Hei's Hao and others wanted to stop him, but they didn't do anything in the end. The man in black said quickly, Qin Yang. I think I've heard of his name. Zheng Long was shocked. He recalled carefully in his mind. Moreover, he remembered the case of the Shensha gang. The reason why the Shensha gang was destroyed was because they kidnapped Qin Yang's maid. In this case, the destruction of the Blackfish Tower may also be related to Qin Yang. Collect all the information about Qin Yang for me immediately, Zheng Long said in a deep voice. Yes. The man in black quickly disappeared in the room. Qin Yang, Zunshan Division. This Zunshan Division is really a place with hidden talents. I underestimated it. Zheng Long gently pinched it, and the chess piece in his hand gradually turned into powder. Qin Yang grabbed Han Baocheng and returned to Zunshan Division. The Zunming Division seemed to have received the news, and there were more than a dozen figures waiting at the door. Qin Yang didn't deal with the people of the Zunming Division very often, and he didn't know these people at all. A handsome man with a short beard came out with a paper fan in his hand. Please stay. Who are you? Qin Yang narrowed his eyes. My name is Kao Deng, and I'm the director of the patrol department. The handsome man said calmly. I don't know him. Don't block my way. Qin Yang said calmly. Qin Yang, according to the rules of the patrol department, Han Baocheng should be handed over to us. After all, your Demon Slayer department is only responsible for dealing with evil spirits. The investigation is the responsibility of our patrol department. Kao Deng said seriously. Then you can ask Lu Shengaiyu to tell me. I just joined the patrol department not long ago, and I don't understand the rules here. Qin Yang smiled. Qin Yang, you are a bronze metal demon slayer. There is no need to fool us. Kao Deng narrowed his eyes. Who said that bronze metal demon slayers must understand these rules? Anyway, I listened to Deputy Director Lu and caught him back. As for how to deal with him, that's his business. I'm only responsible for handing him over to him. Qin Yang said calmly. Kao Deng's eyes gradually turned cold. He received Li Qihei's death order and must get Han Baocheng back. Otherwise, the credit would belong to Lu Shengaiyu alone. So, Qin Yang, are you going to violate the rules of the patrol department? Jordan was going to put her accusation on Qin Yang. But who is Qin Yang? He dares to put any accusation on him. The rules of the patrol department are decided by you, the people of the patrol department. Qin Yang sneered. You only know how to stab me in the back all day long. I broke into Han's house alone and brought him back. You want to intercept without doing anything? There is no such good thing in the world. If you don't agree, let's have a fight. Don't look at me being injured now. I can kill a scumbag like you with one punch. Qin Yang grinned. He stared at Jordan with his eyes, revealing a vicious and violent aura. Jordan frowned secretly. He didn't expect Qin Yang to be so unscrupulous that he dared to take action at the door of the patrol department. This is the gap between the Zeuxi department and the patrol department. Zeuxi people fight with evil spirits all day long, and their nature is extremely perverse and unscrupulous. But the Zunming department is usually only responsible for intelligence work and rarely participates in combat. Do you really dare to do it? Kao Deng reacted quickly, but Li Qihei was standing behind him. How could Qin Yang dare to do it? Kao Deng. I, Qin Yang, challenge you to a life and death duel. Life and death are determined by fate. Do you dare to accept it? Qin Yang said word by word. He would naturally not do it like this. But once Kao Deng accepted the challenge, Li Qihei would have no reason to do it. After all, a life and death duel is a private matter between the two. Kao Deng was in a dilemma. There were so many people from the Zunming department standing behind him. If he didn't dare to accept Qin Yang's challenge, his prestige would be gone. But accepting Qin Yang's challenge, even though Kao Deng himself was a Ganki warrior, he really didn't have the confidence to face Qin Yang. You know, the other party was a ruthless man who had just captured Han Baocheng alive. He hesitated. He seemed at a loss. Qin Yang said calmly, you hesitated, which means you don't have a firm will in your heart. If you accept the challenge like this, I will only kill you. Kyodeng sneered. I was almost led astray by you. I'm from the Zunming department. Why should I accept your challenge? Qin Yang shook his head. It means you are not a man. The person is here. Do you dare to come up and rob him? After saying that, Qin Yang did not enter the Zunshin division, but sat down at the door, completely ignoring Kyodeng's gaze. For a moment, Kyodeng was dumbfounded again. He did not expect Qin Yang to do this to him. Rob people. First say that you can't beat them. Once they, the Zunming department, take action first, and then pursue the responsibility, it will definitely be his bad luck. But if he doesn't take action and just watches? Kyodeng hesitated again. Qin Yang shook his head in his heart. From the fact that Kyodeng did not dare to accept his challenge, he knew what kind of person the other party was. This kind of person is not ruthless at all. If it were him, he would just take people to fight first. It's better not to hesitate. Waste. Li Qiahe, who was observing secretly, cursed himself. He originally didn't want to show up. After all, it would be shameful to tell others about this. But in order to grab the credit, Li Qiahe had to show up in person after realizing that Kyodeng had no way to deal with Qin Yang. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136 Backhand. In front of the Sky Patrol Department, Qin Yang was sitting casually under an old tree, with Han Baocheng unconscious beside him. Kyodeng and his men looked at Qin Yang with a sullen face, hesitant. Just when the two sides were in a stalemate, a figure came out. Qin Yang's eyes fixed. This person looked like a scholar, wearing a high crown, and had an elegant air. It was the deputy director of the Sky Patrol Department, Li Qiahe. Kyodeng and others saw Li Qiahe appear and hurriedly bowed. At the same time, Kyodeng was relieved. Li Qiahe personally came out, so he didn't have to hesitate. Qin Yang, get Han Baocheng out. I will explain this matter to Lu Shengaiyu in person. Li Qiahe said lightly. Who are you? I don't know you. Qin Yang grinned. Li Qiahe looked cold. He didn't expect Qin Yang to be so ungrateful, and still didn't give him any face when he saw him. The deputy director. Li Qiahe, deputy director of the Sky Patrol Department. Li Qiahe said coldly. So it's Deputy Chief Li, but I'm from the Demon Slaying Department, so it's not your turn to take charge. Qin Yang said with a smile. When Li Qiahe heard this, he knew that Qin Yang would definitely not hand over the person. He was not like Jordan. He picked up the paper fan hanging on his waist and hit Qin Yang fiercely. There was a faint cold hissing sound when the paper fan was whipped. Qin Yang's eyes turned cold. He didn't even give face to the deputy chief. A cold airflow appeared on his right arm, and it was thrown out like an elephant's trunk, and the air whistled up. Dragon Elephant Infinite Heavy Whip. When his arm hit the opponent's paper fan, Qin Yang felt an energy that was more terrifying than Genki coming. Even Hunyuan Ki couldn't stop it. He groaned and retreated more than 10 steps. His arm was whipped black and purple by the paper fan. Is this the real gang? Qin Yang frowned slightly. The energy just now was indeed terrible, more condensed than Genki, and had violent destructive power. You are still far away. Li Qiahe did not attack again. It was unreasonable for him to attack a bronze-plated evil killer with his status. Just when he was about to take Han Baocheng away, an old man in Taoist robes appeared strangely. Zhang Liao, you are also involved. Li Qiahe frowned. He didn't expect this man to appear. Zhang Liao, the director of the Zuanling department, has a special status and has never participated in factional struggles. The old Taoist owed Lu Shengaiyu a favor. You can't take this person away. Zhang Liao said lightly. Do you really want to go against me? Li Qiahe's eyes were grim and his voice was cold. Zhang Liao, the old Taoist, seemed to be just a director, but he was a heavenly soul spiritualist. The human soul corresponds to the true key, and the earth soul corresponds to the gang key. The heavenly soul spiritualist and the true gang warrior are equivalent to the same realm, but the two systems are different. The warrior tempers the flesh, the physique is unparalleled, and the blood and ki are like ghosts and gods. The spiritualist pays more attention to the cultivation of the soul, and the means are more varied and weird. It is difficult to say who is stronger and who is weaker. The realm is just a rough division, and it depends on the actual combat in the end. Why not? Zhang Liao looked calm. Okay, I'll remember that. Li Kehe knew that he couldn't take Han Baoqing away with Zhang Liao around, so he turned around and left with an ugly face. Qiao Deng and others hurriedly followed. Qin Yang's eyes were cold. Li Kehe's fan just now hurt him a lot. He also remembered this grudge. Boy, bring your people to Zuanling department with me for a while. Lu Shengai went to the isolated island and won't be back so soon. Zhang Liao said casually. He did it this time to repay Lu Shengai's favor. Before Lu Shengai came back, he had to protect Han Baocheng from being taken away. Thank you, Senior Zhang, for your help. Qin Yang first clasped his fists to thank him, then picked up Han Baocheng and followed Zhang Liao. This was Qin Yang's first time to come to Zuanling department at night. Compared to the daytime, it was more gloomy and strange at night, with wisps of grey fog lingering around the gloomy and ghostly buildings. Qin Yang could also see some strange black shadows passing by from time to time. Why don't you sleep in the middle of the night? What are you trying to do? Zhang Liao cursed. In an instant, those strange black shadows disappeared. Qin Yang's eyes fixed. He hadn't even figured out whether these black shadows were evil spirits or something strange. After that, Zhang Liao took Qin Yang to a Taoist temple. However, the temple had nothing to offer. The doors and windows were broken and empty, with only a few cushions. You rest here first. I'll call you after Lu Shengai comes back. After Zhang Liao finished speaking, he left the Taoist temple. Qin Yang sat down in a corner at random. As for Han Baocheng, he was thrown to the ground at random. Since he was here, he should make the best of it. He used the beaming black water true art, and the black blood clots on his right arm were gradually washed away, the cracks in the bones were gradually repaired, and the pain slowly dissipated. True Gang warriors are indeed extraordinary. The condensed True Gang is more terrible than the original Gang Ki. It seems to contain some characteristics. It should be the manifestation of the extreme cultivation of the internal Qigong method. It was not the first time that Qin Yang had fought against a True Gang warrior. He had sparred with Lu Shengai before. However, Lu Shengai would not be so ruthless. He just wanted Qin Yang to understand the importance of martial arts realm and did not release his true energy. But this time, Li Kehe was different. He did not stop at all, which made Qin Yang realize the gap between himself and the true energy warriors. The current Hunyuan Qi can't stop the true energy warriors. We should try to see what huge changes will happen after the beaming black water true art breaks through to the 4th level. Qin Yang's eyes flickered. Beaming black water true art has 9 levels, and every 3 levels are a realm. As long as you break through to the 4th level, you can condense your true energy into Gang Qi. When you face the true energy warriors again, you may not be without the power to fight back. It just so happens that this mission is over, and I have another 1000 contribution points. Exchange for another horizontal training method. Now it seems that relying on a Hunyuan cover alone is not enough. Qin Yang thought. The Hunyuan Qi cover itself is a second-rate horizontal training kung fu. If he hadn't condensed the Hunyuan Qi and continuously strengthened the Qi cover, this method would have been insufficient. Now it's a good opportunity to practice another horizontal training kung fu. Nothing happened overnight. Wait until the next day. Lu Shengai and Han Qianai returned with a group of evil killers. This ambush on the lonely island can be said to be a great victory. The ships of the other shore sect came from Shan County and even other counties, and there was a lack of communication between them. One ship was eaten up. After one night, nearly 200 people from the other shore sect were killed, and 50 to 60 people were captured alive. Boy, you did a good job. Lu Shengai walked into the Taoist temple with a refreshed spirit. Even if I fail, Zhang Liao should also take action. Qin Yang smiled. This old fox seemed to be betting on himself. But in fact, Zhang Liao should be there all the time. If he failed, he would take action. Then it's my turn to owe him a favor. It's not easy to repay his favor. Lu Shengai shook his head. Okay, the people are here. I'll leave it to you. Remember to give me 1000 contribution points quickly. I need it urgently. Qin Yang reminded. Don't worry, you have made a great contribution this time. Lu Shengaiu laughed. Chapter 137 Farewell. In the following days, Shan County was under current and many changes occurred. The biggest one was the collusion between the Han family and the other Shaw religion. Faced with the evidence, Han Baocheng was interrogated and speechless. But Lu Shengaiu didn't say so much nonsense and sent people to the government office the next day. In order to suppress the power of the aristocratic family, Gongsun Liang fully cooperated and sent a large number of Yamen runners to search the Han family. County Lieutenant Zheng Long could only stay at home on sick leave and not see anyone, because the crime of the Han family this time was collusion with the other Shaw religion, and the patrol department also had a lot of ironclad evidence. In this case, forcing your way out would only result in a bloody head. This was the second major move of the patrol department after the fall of the Blackfish Tower. Before the Blackfish Tower, the people in the city didn't really know much about it, but it was just circulated among the big and small forces. But this time the fall of the Han family was different. This is one of the 5 major families entrenched in Shan County, and who in the local area doesn't know the reputation of the Han family. Now that the Han family has colluded with the other Shaw religion, there has been a great uproar in the city. The reputation of the patrol of the heavens has become more deeply rooted in the hearts of the local people. The living room of the Zheng family. Zheng Long, who was sick at home, sat in the main seat with a ruddy face, but a gloomy expression. Wang Zhaohei, the old woman and the big man with tied hair who had appeared before sat below him. Wang Zhaohei is the head of the Wang family. The old woman's name is Sun Yan, and she is the head of the Sun family among the 5 major families. The other big man with tied hair is called Li Jihei, and he is the head of the Li family. Zheng, Wang, Sun, Li, Han, these are the 5 major families in Shan County. But now the Han family has become history, and only the 4 major families are left. Once the Han family was destroyed, we did nothing. In a few days, it may be our turn to be destroyed by the patrol of the heavens. Li Jihei said coldly. The Han family is not clean, and the other families are not clean either. Everyone has a business that is not allowed to see the light. Gongsun Liang is now clearly teaming up with the patrol department to suppress us. If this continues, there will be no place for us to stand in Shan County. Sun Yan's voice was hoarse. Wang Zhaohei said indifferently. Gongsun Liang and the patrol department had a bad relationship before, but the government office and the patrol department are the power of the court after all. It is natural for them to unite to suppress us local tyrants. Then we must teach them a lesson, or sit here and wait to die. Li Jihei asked back. The 3 of them said so much, but their eyes actually stayed on one person. Zheng Long. The county lieutenant was drinking tea and seemed indifferent to their arguments. But they all knew in their hearts, Zheng Long could not get away with this matter. Because among the 5 major families, the Zheng family and the Han family have the deepest relationship. Even Zheng Long's wife is Han Baocheng's eldest daughter. So have you made up your mind? Zheng Long finally spoke. His gloomy eyes turned around. Zheng Long, tell us what you think. You can't just say nothing and let us do it with you. Wang Zhaohei said in a serious tone. I'll introduce someone to you. Zheng Long smiled slightly. As soon as he finished speaking, a man wearing a Confucian robe and an exaggerated ghost mask on his face walked slowly into the hall. As soon as this man appeared, Wang Zhaohei and others tensed their muscles. This is a subconscious reaction when sensing something extremely dangerous approaching. Let me introduce you. This is the 12th owner of the Blackfish Tower, the ghost-faced judge. Zheng Long said softly. Blackfish Tower! Exclamation mark. Wang Zhaohei and others looked surprised. They didn't expect Zheng Long to even contact the Blackfish Tower. Not long ago, the Blackfish Tower suffered a heavy blow from the patrol department, and the 12th owner went into hiding. Now that several of our families have grievances with the patrol department, I decided to join forces with the Blackfish Tower. I wonder what you think? Zheng Long said lightly. Wang Zhaohei and others agreed without much consideration. The Blackfish Tower was severely damaged. But the Blackfish building in Shan County is a branch. Behind the Blackfish building, there is a behemoth. The Sky Patrol Department and Gongsun Liang joined forces to put pressure on some people. Now that the Blackfish building can't share the pressure, it is naturally what they want. After all, there are some things they can't do, but the Blackfish building can do it. What's more, the power behind the Blackfish building is not weaker than the Sky Patrol Department. When the leaders of several major families agreed, everyone began to discuss how to counterattack the Sky Patrol Department. The Sky Patrol Department was also turbulent. The demise of the Han family and the ambush and killing of so many believers of the other Shore religion. All these credits fell on Lu Shenggai's head, and the Yangning Prefecture Sky Patrol Department responded quickly. Lu Shenggaiu officially became the head of the Sky Patrol Department of Shan County. With Lu Shenggaiu's rise to power, the pattern of the Sky Patrol Department has undergone earth-shaking changes. Li Keihei's power was quickly hollowed out. Lu Shenggaiu constantly inserted his people into the Ming Patrol Department and the Military Prison Department. Originally, all of Li Keihei's direct lineage was sent to other places. In just a few days, Lu Shenggaiu completed the cleansing of the patrol department and completely controlled the patrol department. And Qin Yang's reputation quickly spread in the patrol department and Shan County City because he captured Han Baocheng single-handedly. Everyone was asking about his origins. 3 days later, in the back mountain of the patrol department, Master Qin, thank you for this time. Mengfeng, who had just recovered from his injuries, had some ability to move, and said with his hands clasped. The wanted order on him had been revoked by Gongsun Liang. The truth about the massacre involving him was also revealed. Han Baocheng personally admitted that he had instructed his men to slander and frame Mengfeng. Now Mengfeng has restored his innocence. Don't thank me, I also got what I deserved. What are you going to do next? Continue to work as a constable in the government office? Qin Yang asked with a smile. It's meaningless to be a constable. I plan to wander around the world. Mengfeng shook his head. Right. A man like you still wants to be a constable. Isn't that courting death? Being a wandering knight is so free and easy. Song Lingzi appeared with a white silk hanging on his head. These days, I also want to thank Taoist Song Lingzi for taking care of me. Mengfeng has also gotten used to Song Lingzi's way of appearing these days. That's fine. Qin Yang nodded. For Mengfeng, being a constable is indeed not suitable. Going back will only make people target him everywhere, so it's better to wander around the world. Lord Qin, you have to be careful too. County Lieutenant Zheng Long and the Han family are relatives, and the two sides have a close relationship. It is very likely that Zheng Long is behind the collusion between the Han family and the other Shore cult. Because only Zheng Long can get the forging drawings of military equipment. Mengfeng warned. Don't worry, after Lu Shenggaiu has dealt with the Han family, it should be the Zheng family's turn. These big families won't be able to jump around for long. Qin Yang smiled. With the demise of the Han family, the collision between the patrol and the local tyrants will only become more intense. Well, then I'll go first. Take care, both of you. Mengfeng picked up his luggage, held a long sword in his hand, said goodbye and left. Chapter 138a. After bidding farewell to Mengfeng, Qin Yang returned to the Sky Patrol Department. Today, the Sky Patrol Department is Lu Shenggaiu's alone. When Qin Yang came to the hall, he saw Lu Shenggaiu, with a rosy face, drinking tea alone. Qin Yang, you came at the right time. Come and have a drink. Lu Shenggaiu smiled. No more. Head of Lu, when will you cash in my 1000 contribution points? Qin Yang asked. He came here just for this matter. Your contribution is indispensable. I had someone stamp your token this morning. Lu Shenggaiu smiled. Send someone to tell me. That way I don't have to come here in vain. Qin Yang shook his head slightly. I'm just waiting for you to come. Lu Shenggaiu said seriously. Qin Yang, the Han family was destroyed this time, but the water behind it is even more muddy. Zheng Long is not a simple character. He is not only the head of several major families, but also has connections with the other Shore religion. This time we take down Han Baocheng, and the other party will not give up. Lu Shenggaiu, who became the chief of the department, did not get carried away. Why doesn't the chief take down Zheng Long in one fell swoop? Qin Yang asked in confusion. No. Han Baocheng took all the things on himself and never mentioned Zheng Long. Besides, the Zheng family is different from the Han family. The Zheng family is too powerful. Once they tear their faces apart, the entire Shan County city will fall into chaos and the situation will be out of control. We can only delay it temporarily, slowly collect evidence, and then take it down in one fell swoop. Lu Shengai, who didn't want to destroy the remaining major families. For the people, these major families are big landlords who suck the marrow out of the bones. All walks of life are basically controlled by them, and they exploit the common people layer by layer. For the court, especially the Zheng family, who secretly have an unclear relationship with the other Shu religion, it is even more sinful to die. But some things can't be rushed. Who knows, the Zheng family might attack us first. Qin Yang said lightly. So you have to be careful these days. You stole the limelight in this operation. You rushed into Han's house and took down Han Baocheng with one knife. If Zheng Long wants revenge, you are likely to be the primary target. Lu Shengai warned. Qin Yang has made too many enemies in Shan County. Blackfish Tower. Several major families as a capable general under his command. Lu Shengai, who naturally doesn't want Qin Yang to get into trouble. Then I will hide in the back mountain and practice honestly. Qin Yang smiled. He is not so arrogant as to think that Shan City has no rivals. He can deal with the Ganqi realm warriors. But once he meets the real gang warriors, he is obviously still a little bit behind. He needs more time to settle down and practice. Well, just practice with peace of mind first. I have said hello to Han Kai and Iu. I will try not to assign you tasks during this period. Anyway, you have earned 1,000 contribution points from me, which is enough for a while. Lu Shengai smiled. Then I'll go spend it now. Qin Yang waved his hand, turned around and walked to Linxin Tower. This brat. Lu Shengai shook his head slightly and continued to drink tea. After exchanging the evil dragon swallowing evil blade last time, there were still 200 contribution points left. Counting the 1000 contribution points this time, I have 1200 contribution points. First, exchange for a horizontal training kung fu, and exchange the remaining contribution points for pills to assist in training. Qin Yang had already thought about how to use these 1200 contribution points. Pills can be used to increase the speed of training, but he didn't exchange them because the contribution points were always scarce before. Going up to Linxin Tower, Qin Yang picked up the horizontal training kung fu, immortal scripture, barbarian bear gang scripture, golden bell cover, dragon locking divine kung fu. The horizontal training kung fu has different characteristics. Qin Yang picked them up, but his eyes were fixed on one kung fu. Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman Scripture. This kung fu book was mainly attracted by its name. This name sounds like a Taoist scripture. How can it be placed here? Is it placed in the wrong place? Qin Yang muttered as he picked up the kung fu book. After a quick look at the outline, his eyes gradually became serious. Interesting. This Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman is really a Taoist scripture, and it is also a horizontal training method. This method applies the yin and yang principles of heaven and earth to the human body. Yin is death, and yang is life. Life and death. Reincarnation is not a pity. The yang talisman is to refine the human body's qi and blood, and the human body's potential burns vigorously like fuel. The yin talisman state is a deeper state. The more serious the injury, the closer to death. It can make the practitioner burst out with stronger power. From the outline, the yang talisman is a regular combat state. The yin talisman is more extreme, hovering at the gate of hell, and bursting out in despair. Interesting. Qin Yang likes this extreme kung fu. But the price of this yin yang life and death talisman surprised him. It is worth 900 contribution points, even 100 more expensive than the evil dragon swallowing knife, and second only to the North Ming Blackwater True Kung Fu. But now Qin Yang has 1200 contribution points, rich and powerful, so he directly exchanged it. The remaining 300 contribution points, Qin Yang used all to exchange 4 pills. There are pharmacists on duty at the place where pills are exchanged, who can provide guidance for the evil killing people who come to look for pills. Qin Yang felt a headache when he saw the dazzling array of pills, so he went directly to find a pharmacist. The pharmacist was quite professional. After asking about the characteristics of Qin Yang's practice, he recommended a pill called Tay pill to him. This pill is made from a medicinal material called water ginseng, which has the effect of improving the internal energy of warriors who practice water-attributed techniques. However, the pill is cold and yin, so warriors need to be careful. Qin Yang is naturally not afraid of any cold breath. because he still has the extreme cold magical power in his body. This table is not expensive, and one can be exchanged for 10 contribution points. Qin Yang exchanged all the remaining 300 contribution points for tables in one breath, and got a total of 30. With the pills and the Yin Yang life and death talisman, Qin Yang returned to his own courtyard, and began to practice in seclusion. Host, Qin Yang Beaming Black Water True Art, 3rd level, 870 thousandths, Dragon Elephant Fist, Proficient, 1237/1500, Evil Dragon Swallowing Evil Blade, Proficient. 456/1500, Turtle Snake Art, Perfect, Extreme Cold, Primordial Key Cover, Perfect, Primordial Key, First Breakthrough Beaming Black Water True Art to the 4th level. Dragon Elephant Fist is not far from the minor success realm, so we must also take the opportunity to break through. Then practice Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman Scripture. Evil Dragon Swallowing Evil Blade can't be left behind. Either Qin Yang looked down and found that he had too many martial arts waiting to be practiced. It would be great if there was a clone technique where each clone would specialize in practicing a martial art. I think it won't be long before I can be invincible in the martial arts world. When you have time, ask Song Lingzi if the spiritual master has similar techniques. Qin Yang muttered. He took out the table he had just exchanged and swallowed it. The pill quickly turned into a cold air in the lower abdomen and quickly merged with the beaming black water key. Then, Qin Yang felt that the speed of the internal key circulation was accelerating. Chapter 139 Penance. Tapils are made from water attributed herbs, and they blend harmoniously with beaming black water true key. When the medicinal power is activated, Qin Yang quickly enters a state of meditation and circulates beaming black water true key. The deep and cold true key flows rapidly through the meridians of his body like a rushing river. Qin Yang is physically strong, and his meridians are tough, but he feels a little pain. However, after circulating the black water true key once, Qin Yang was surprised to find that the time was shortened by nearly 1/3. Within 3 days, I should be able to break through the beaming black water true key to the 4th level. Qin Yang's eyes were happy. Reducing the practice time by 1/3 is of great significance to him. He immediately sank into his mind and circulated beaming black water true key. A faint chill began to emanate from him, and soon, frost appeared on the furniture in the room. The room became extremely cold. Qin Yang ignored these and practiced tirelessly. After a few hours, the medicinal power of tapils disappeared. Qin Yang swallowed another pill and continued to practice. The so-called yin cold medicinal power precipitation had no effect on him at all. It was digested as soon as it appeared. It was equivalent to a tonic for him. Unknowingly, 3 days passed. Boom! Exclamation mark. Qin Yang suddenly felt that the already turbulent beaming black water key became even faster and more violent, surging wildly. His muscles naturally swelled, densely packed deep blue blood vessels emerged, and his whole body was emitting extremely cold white air. During this process, Qin Yang had a strange feeling. In a trance, he seemed to come to an underwater abyss. There were countless ferocious demons in this abyss. They were roaring at him and attacking with their fangs and claws. This Qin Yang was suddenly stunned. He felt that he was no longer in human form, but had become another existence. The ferocious and violent dragon head, the dark and deep turtle back, the cold and roaring snake tail, and the endless tyranny emerged in Qin Yang's mind. He turned into a black tortoise. Kill! Qin Yang roared, waving his cold claws, and fought madly with these monsters in the abyss of the seabed. Kill! 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 The sharp and thick dragon teeth kept biting the monsters one by one. The snake tail seemed to turn into a heavy whip, rippling deep water waves, and more than a dozen monsters died with a casual whip. The black turtleback was indestructible, and any attack from the monsters was useless. But these abyss monsters seemed endless, and could not be killed at all. But Qin Yang fell into that deep and cold brutal desire. As he killed more and more demons in the abyss of the seabed, the brutal desire became stronger and eroded his heart. No, I'm going crazy. At the critical moment, Qin Yang suddenly regained his sanity. It was the state of meditation that pulled him out of the brutal desire. He was horrified. If it weren't for the deep concentration of the state of meditation that made him regain a little clarity at the last moment, I'm afraid I would really go crazy. just like those warriors who practiced the beaming black water true art before. It is not wrong that this art is called a taboo art. Qin Yang tried hard to control his brutal desire. The demons emerging from the abyss of the seabed were also gradually decreasing until they disappeared completely. Qin Yang felt his whole body tremble. He suddenly opened his eyes. Breakthrough? Qin Yang could feel that there was a pure and deep black true energy flowing in his body. No. Now it should be Genki. The flow of this true energy is much less than before, but it has become deeper and emits a faint black fluorescence. This is Genki. Qin Yang thought about it, swallowed another pill, and continued to practice. After he was completely familiar with the beaming black water Genki, he got up and went to the back mountain. Let me try how powerful this Genki is. Qin Yang did not use any boxing moves, but just condensed the absolute black water Genki in his right fist. The right fist was slightly emitting a deep black light, as if covered with hard black ice, and it slammed into the ground. Boom. The trees in the back mountain shook violently, and leaves kept falling. Qin Yang's right forearm hit the soil directly. It's so cool. Qin Yang laughed wildly, and punched the ground again and again. After Qin Yang vented his anger, the open space in the back mountain became bumpy and full of fist-sized holes. The excitement in Qin Yang's heart gradually calmed down. He noticed something strange. No, my emotions seem to be easily excited. Qin Yang's character is tough and deep, and he rarely shows the kind of excitement he just had. In the past, when he broke through, he was happy in his heart, but he didn't have such a strong reaction. It seems that I'm still affected by the North Sea black water true art. It's worthy of being a taboo technique. Even my temperament has begun to change. Qin Yang thought about it carefully and felt that the reason for his drastic change in personality should be because of the North Sea black water true art. When he broke through just now, he almost fell into endless and cruel desires. He originally thought he had broken free, but now it seems that he was still affected. After this problem was discovered, Qin Yang could only observe slowly to see if it would continue to have an impact. It was impossible to stop practicing beaming black water true art now. He was very satisfied with the power of this technique, and there was no technique more suitable than this. At worst, I can practice another technique to maintain my state of mind. Qin Yang calmed down and then practiced the dragon elephant fist according to his plan. Since the practice of the dragon elephant fist was not blessed by the pill like the beaming black water true art, the practice speed would be slower. 5 days later, the dragon elephant fist broke through to the small success realm. Qin Yang's arms became more sturdy and wild, like 2 elephant legs, extremely exaggerated. After spending a day getting familiar with the small success dragon elephant fist, Qin Yang finally began to practice the Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman Sutra. This horizontal practice technique is very interesting. It has 2 talismans, one yin and one yang. These 2 talismans are extremely complicated, just like human blood vessels. In fact, this requires the practitioner to use the blood and ki as cinnabar and the flesh as talisman paper in his body to transform into yin and yang talismans. With the lesson of practicing the evil dragon swallowing knife last time, this time, Qin Yang just entered a state of deep concentration and memorized the extremely terrifying rune lines of the yin yang talisman. You know, the human body has many more blood vessels than meridians, as many as stars. Even Qin Yang spent more than 10 days to memorize the lines of these 2 talismans. I remember that his head was swollen and painful, and he barely remembered them all. After that, it was actual practice. The practice of this Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman Sutra is very particular. Yin talismans can only be practiced during the day, and Yang talismans can only be practiced after the sun goes down. Because Yin and Yang are born from each other. If the Yin talisman is practiced at night, there will only be solitary Yin, and the ki and blood will be corrupted. If the Yang talisman is practiced during the day, it will be solitary Yang, and the blood will be burned out. In Qin Yang's eyes, the danger level of this skill is no less than that of the beaming black water true skill. Be careful. Chapter 140 The Wind Rises. Just when Qin Yang was cultivating hard, a bloody storm was brewing outside. 5 corpses covered with white cloth were placed outside the Xuexi Hall. Okay. You dare to mess with my Shiangsu division. You want to fight to the death. I, Lu Shengaiyu, will fight to the death with you. Lu Shengaiyu stood in front of these corpses, his face blue, and roared in anger. These corpses are all corpses of Xuexi people. When they were sent to perform the mission of Xuexi, they were intercepted and killed by mysterious forces. The other party even threw the corpses at the foot of the mountain of the Shiangsu division. Chief, we were tricked. According to the investigation of the Zunming department, the mission of Xuexi, that these Xuexi people went to perform, was simply a disguise. The purpose should be, to trick our people. I didn't notice this matter, please punish me, Chief. Han Qianyu's eyes were like cold moons, extremely cold. This is where the other party is cunning. Generally, the mission of Xuexi of the Shiangsu division is reported by the county government in various places, and then the people of the Xuexi division are sent to deal with it. But the people in the county government office were very likely bribed or deceived, and uploaded these disguised evil spirit incidents to the patrol department. When Han Qianyu sent the evil slayer to deal with it, it was like a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth. Even I didn't expect the other party to use such a trick. It's not your fault. Lu Shengaiyu shook his head. He narrowed his eyes. The next task must be verified by the patrol department before sending people there. At the same time, send people to track down the murderers who attacked and killed the evil slayers, and don't let any of them go. Lu Shengaiyu knew that this must have been done by several major families with the purpose of showing off his power. But at present, he has no evidence, so he can only pull out these beasts first. Yes. Han Qianyu said in a deep voice. You can properly arrange the affairs of these evil slayers after their death. Lu Shengaiyu said again. Han Qianyu said softly. Don't worry, Chief. We have sent people to pick up the widows of these evil killers. As for the pension, it is also twice as much as normal. Lu Shengaiyu nodded. That's good. After leaving the Xuexi hall, he walked into the Zunming department. The head of the Zunming department is no longer Cao Deng. After Lu Shengaiyu took office, he immediately transferred Cao Deng back to the Yangning Zunshan department. The head of the Zunming department is now Zhang Zhao. Zhang Zhao himself followed Lu Shengaiyu all the way from Yangning prefecture to Shan County City, which is equivalent to a confidant. When he was in the Xuexi department before, Han Qianyu had a special status, so he could only let Zhang Zhao suffer for a while. When Lu Shengaiyu officially became the chief, he naturally let Zhang Zhao take Cao Deng's position. Chief. Zhang Zhao saw Lu Shengaiyu coming in and hurriedly stood up. You should know about the Xuexi department. Lu Shengaiyu glanced at the hall and found that there were only him and Zhang Zhao, so he said directly, I know. But do you want me to do it? Zhang Zhao asked in a low voice. What do you think? Do you really think I, Lu Shengaiyu, am made of mud? Lu Shengaiyu snorted. Then I'll arrange for someone to go down right now. I promise it will be done cleanly. Zhang Zhao grinned. Well, remember not to let the people from the 5 major families get hold of any evidence. Lu Shengaiyu instructed. He has never been a person who follows the rules. Now that the 5 major families have resorted to such means, he will not be polite. Isn't it just killing people? Who can't do it? Don't worry, Chief C, I'm good at this. Zhang Zhao grinned. Then you go and arrange it. Lu Shengaiyu nodded. That night, Zheng's wharf. As the most powerful family in Shan County, the Zheng family directly occupies the largest and best wharf in the city. The wharf before the Chensha gang was not even a quarter of the size of the Zheng family's wharf. The goods in the warehouse were piled up like mountains, and the merchant ships were docked densely. The lights at the wharf were as bright as day, and many porters were still working hard to move and unload goods. The Zheng family guards were patrolling back and forth. Under the shadows, a dozen men in black sneaked in and quietly mixed into a dock warehouse. Not long after, the warehouse was on fire. Quick, quick. The fire broke out. Screams continued to ring. Hearing that the warehouse was on fire, Zheng Sangun, the master of the Zheng family who was in charge of the dock tonight, went to put out the fire with a large group of guards. At this time, another warehouse not far away was emitting black smoke and flames. Damn it. Someone is deliberately setting the fire. Zheng Sanguan was about 50 years old and was Zheng Long's third uncle. He was called the Mountain Splitting Knife by the people of Shan County. He carried a heavy knife on his back and went to the newly burning warehouse. Just as he rushed into the warehouse, a fierce knife light wrapped in black smoke attacked. Zheng Sanguan had been prepared for it, took a breath and shouted, and punched out. Bang! The fist slammed into the fierce knife light. Puff! More than a dozen beams of black light suddenly shot from both sides. Because of this powerful punch, Zheng Sanguan had no time to dodge. Trapped in life and death, he screamed hysterically, and his whole body of true energy suddenly stretched his clothes to form a protective key. This protective key is invulnerable to swords and guns, and difficult to break by arrows. Therefore, after generally being promoted to the true key realm, one will no longer be afraid of ordinary bows and crossbows. It simply cannot penetrate one's own protective key. But this black light was extremely sharp, and it suddenly pierced Zheng Sanguan's key, and pierced into his body. This black bladed arrow. Zheng Sanguan looked down at the black arrow that shot through him, and coughed up blood. The black bladed arrow, a forbidden weapon of the court, was specially created to hunt down martial arts masters. There are talismans specially engraved by spiritual masters on the arrows, which can pierce the true key of the warrior, and kill with one blow. Puff! Zheng Sanguan, who was hit by more than a dozen arrows, fell down powerlessly. A figure suddenly jumped out, and pasted a talisman on Zheng Sanguan's body. It was the corpse burning talisman that Song Lingzi had used before. The wound caused by the black arrow was too obvious, so the body needed to be destroyed. Zheng Sanguan's body was quickly burned to ashes by the talisman fire. Let's go. The Zheng family's people are almost here. A cold voice sounded in the warehouse. More than a dozen dark figures quickly retreated from the Zheng family dock. The fire at the dock burned all night. It was not until the fire was extinguished the next day that more than a dozen bodies were moved out of the burned warehouse. Among them, Zheng Sanguan's body was not found. A large group of Yamen runners were maintaining order in the dock to prevent the onlookers from rushing in. Zheng County where he didn't find Zheng Sanguan's body. Jiang Pingchen, the head of the police who had been punched away by Qin Yang before, came to report. Impossible. Uncle Sun must have died in this dock warehouse. It's just that someone destroyed the body. Zheng Long sneered. This. Jiang Pingchen didn't dare to answer. He received news that 5 bodies were placed at the foot of the mountain by the patrol yesterday. Less than a day later, Zhengjia Wharf caught fire. Everyone knew who did it. But Jiang Pingchen didn't dare to wade in the water. It was too deep. At this time, County Magistrate Gongsun Liang walked in leisurely inside. Zheng County Lieutenant, why did a fire break out of nowhere? Chapter 141 Cloud Surge. Listening to Gongsun Liang's sarcastic words, Zheng Long's face became even uglier. Normally, these things are handled by him, the county lieutenant. But today Gongsun Liang came over uncharacteristically, obviously wanting to come and ridicule him. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Maybe it was man-made. Zheng Long's tone was cold. Gongsun Liang said loudly, then we really need to investigate it thoroughly. This fire was seen by the people of the whole city. If it was really man-made, the murderer must be brought to justice. Zheng Long emphasized, don't worry, sir, I will catch the murderer as soon as possible. Gongsun Liang laughed, then I definitely believe in the ability of Zheng County Lieutenant, then I will leave first. With that, Gongsun Liang left with his hands behind his back. He came here, obviously to anger Zheng Long. Zheng Long's eyes became more and more gloomy. He asked Jiang Pingchen to stay at the dock, but he left first. Walking all the way in Shan County, then turning into a remote street, and entering an ordinary mansion. The lobby of the mansion. Wang Zhaohei, Li Jihei and Sun Yan had been waiting for a long time. In addition, there was also the owner of the 12th floor of Blackfish, the ghost-faced judge. Zheng Junwei, how is the situation? Wang Zhaohei asked in a low voice. It was done very cleanly. Everything was burned to ashes. I didn't expect Lu Shengaiyu to fight back against us so quickly. Zheng Long sneered. As the head of the Patrol of the Heavens, I didn't expect him to use such a barbaric means of revenge. Li Jihei shook his head. It seems that he is really anxious, because several evil killers died. Sun Yan said indifferently. It's not polite to come without reciprocity. The Patrol of the Heavens has several bases of the Patrol of the main tribe in the city. Let's do it tonight. Don't leave any alive. Zheng Long gritted his teeth. Since Lu Shengaiyu wants to play, let's play it bigger. Let's see who can't stand it first. Li Jihei, Sun Yan and Wang Zhaohei heard the murderous intent in Zheng Long's words. But they are not cowards. They dared to take action even against the evil killers, let alone several bases of the patrol of the Ming tribe. The 12th Blackfish Floor Master said softly, "Leave a stronghold for me." "No problem." Zheng Long nodded. Several people discussed tonight's action in the lobby of this mansion. In the days that followed, Shan County City was completely plunged into a bloody storm. Several major families in the patrol department fought fiercely in secret. All the strongholds of the patrol department in the city were eradicated. Several major families suffered heavy losses, masters were assassinated one after another, and some important places were also destroyed by arson. It can be said that the public security of Shan County City has never collapsed so badly. But the people of Shan County City don't understand this. They only know that many people die every day and there are fires every day. County government office. It seems that they are really angry. Gongsun Liang was in the court, looking at the report presented by his men, and sighed softly. "Isn't this exactly what the adults want?" The slightly fat scholar smiled faintly. "But it can't be too chaotic. It doesn't matter if it's a small fight, but if it turns into a big mess, it won't be good for me as the county governor." Gongsun Liang shook his head. As the county governor, if he can't control the situation, he may be held accountable by the state government. But the current situation is not something that can be reconciled just because you want to, the slightly fat scholar said. After these days of fighting, the two sides have long forged a blood feud. Gongsun Liang rubbed his temples. He was also worried about this. A Yamen runner walked into the court. "County Governor, Lucy Xiao sent you an official document. Bring it to see." Gongsun Liang looked strange. Generally, when asking someone to deliver a letter or convey something, it shouldn't be as formal as an official document. Lu Shengaiyu chose to use this method. There must be some meaning. When Gongsun Liang opened the official document, his face became strange. A smile gradually appeared at the corners of his mouth. "Haha, this Lu Shengaiyu really knows how to think of a way for me." Gongsun Liang couldn't help laughing. The slightly chubby scholar came forward to take a look, and said in surprise, "He actually wants to behead Han Baocheng in public? Isn't this the same as slapping Zheng Long in the face? How could he possibly bear it? You know, Han Baocheng is Zheng Long's father-in-law. If his father-in-law is beheaded in public by Lu Shengaiyu, the name Zheng Long will be a laughing stock in Shan County from then on." Gongsun Liang laughed and said, "I don't care about that. If Lu Shengaiyu wants to behead him, let him behead him. In this way, they don't have to make Shan City so chaotic. The two sides are expected to fight it out in the execution ground. Lu Shengaiyu's move is vicious enough, just to force Zheng Long to fight to the death." The slightly chubby scholar thought, "It seems that the patrol department has suffered heavy losses in the fighting these days, so they are forced to use this trick." Gongsun Liang refolded the document, "But I have to say that Lu Shengaiyu used this trick brilliantly. This is an open conspiracy, an open conspiracy." He pondered for a while. "Help me draft a notice. 1 month later, behead Han Baocheng in the suburbs." The slightly fat scholar understood Gongsun Liang's idea. This obviously gave both sides more time to prepare. "I will draft it right away." The slightly fat scholar smiled. Soon, a new notice was posted on the notice boards of all sizes in Shan County. The Shiangsan division and the county government have found that the prisoner Han Baocheng privately built weapons and colluded with the other side of the evil cult. The evidence is conclusive and his crime should be executed. According to the Deu law, he will be beheaded in the execution ground in the suburbs on the first day of next month. An old scholar read out the content of the notice. A stone stirred up 1,000 waves. "Are you really going to behead Han Baocheng? Isn't Han Baocheng the father-in-law of Zheng County Magistrate? Zheng County Magistrate is famous for being impartial, and will definitely not be partial. I don't think it's that simple." More and more people gathered around and whispered to each other. The news quickly spread throughout the streets and alleys, and into the mansions of the high-class families. "Okay, Lu Shengaiyu, you want to play? I'll play with you. Zheng family." Zheng Long looked at the notice in his hand with a cold look. In fact, he, the county lieutenant, had just come into contact with this notice. Gongsun Liang issued this notice without consulting him at all. According to the laws of the Deu dynasty, this is allowed. because the county magistrate is the highest official in the county and has the power of life and death. If Zheng Long has any objections, he can only go to the state government to appeal. After tearing the notice into pieces, Zheng Long walked out of his mansion and headed towards the secret base. Patrol Sky Division. Lu Shengai also looked at the notice in his hand and sneered. This Gongsun Liang is really treacherous, and he wants our two families to fight each other to lose. Chief, is this too hasty? Han Qianyu frowned. The Patrol Sky Division and the major families in Shan County are like water and fire, but Lu Shengai really has no way out by doing this. No rush. This is the only way to force out all the evil spirits behind Zheng Long. Besides, this time, I also invited a master from the Yangning Patrol Sky Division. Lu Shengai said with a smile. Chapter 142 Undercurrent. Shan City, Wang Mansion. In the recent fight with the Patrol of the Heavens, the Wang family naturally contributed manpower, and for this, they were severely retaliated by Lu Shengai with heavy casualties. At this time, Wang Zhaohei's mind was shaken. He felt that, if he really continued to fight with the Patrol of the Heavens, even if he won in the end, the Wang family would probably suffer heavy losses, and the gains would not outweigh the losses. Just as he was thinking hard, a servant suddenly walked into the hall and said respectfully, "Master, there is a Taoist outside the door looking for you." Taoist? Wang Zhaohei reacted and said hurriedly, "Please ask him to come in quickly." Haha. Master Wang, I haven't seen you for a long time. Why doesn't my apprentice come out to see me? A yellow-faced Taoist walked in loudly. This Taoist had no flesh on his face, bulging eyes, and a somewhat scary appearance. Master Zeduo, Fu was killed by someone. Wang Zhaohei saw this Taoist and sighed slightly. Who dares to harm my disciple? Zeduo Yuan's face immediately became sinister. Wang Fu was his most favored disciple. He was very satisfied with his talent and family background. He had originally thought of coming to the palace to see his recent situation and give him some careful guidance, but he didn't expect to hear this bad news as soon as he arrived. Master Zeduo, calm down first. Fu had an accident about half a year ago. At that time, he was on his way to the Patrol of the Sky and was ambushed and killed on the way. Even his body was burned to ashes. Wang Zhaohei's voice became gloomy when he mentioned this matter. Wang Fu was not his most favored son. Who could accept that he died innocently like this? Exclamation mark. Why didn't you tell me? Zeduo Yuan questioned. Master, I also wanted to inform you, but your whereabouts are uncertain. I sent many people to look for you, but I couldn't find any trace of you. Wang Zhaohei smiled bitterly. Zeduo Yuan regained his composure. He knew that Wang Zhaohei was right. Wang Fu had a way to contact him, but he was dead. He was in another state, and it was indeed difficult for the Wang family to contact him. Do you have any clues about the murderer who killed Wang Fu? Zeduo Yuan asked coldly. Afterwards, I sent a large number of people to investigate. I even offered a sky-high price in the black market. But apart from some fraudsters who came to my door, there is no clue at all. Wang Zhaohei sighed. Until now, he is still investigating the truth of Wang Fu's death. Zeduo Yuan's eyes flickered. Wang Fu's room, you should not have touched it. Not a bit. Wang Zhaohei whispered. He knew that the only hope to track down the murderer of Wang Fu now was Zeduo Yuan. Take me to see. Zeduo Yuan said. Wang Zhaohei immediately took Zeduo Yuan into Wang Fu's room. On weekdays, I have not moved anything, except asking someone to clean it. Wang Zhaohei pushed open the door. After Zeduo Yuan pushed open the door, he went straight to the desk. There were many books here. Zeduo Yuan narrowed his eyes and picked up the top one. He only looked at the title of the book and knew that this book contained a method of refining an evil weapon. Before Wang Fu got into trouble, he should have bought a lot of strange materials, right? Zeduo Yuan asked. I'll ask the accountant about this. Wang Zhaohei quickly went to check. After a while, he quickly returned from the accountant. Master Zeduo, Fu did spend a lot of money in the months before the accident. Wang Zhaohei said softly. Zeduo Yuan nodded, and he suddenly walked to a locker and pushed it open. There were many bottles and jars in it. Wang Zhaohei actually looked through these things. But the spiritual master's things were too strange and difficult to understand, and it was difficult for him to identify what kind of elixir it was, so he could only seal it up first. Yuan glanced at them and recognized them all. "It's missing." Yuan said lightly. "What's missing?" Wang Zhaohei asked curiously. "These bottles should have been filled with some healing elixirs. Now they are all empty, which means Wang Fu should have been injured." Yuan said in a deep voice. "Injured? He practiced in the mansion all day and never fought with anyone. Why would he be injured?" Wang Zhaohei asked curiously. "No, Wang Fu must have gone out." Yuan walked back to the desk and picked up the secret method of refining weapons. This book records the method of making an evil weapon called the dirty water flag. In addition to the precious materials, the dirty water flag must be placed in water and absorb the ghosts of 50 people who fell into the water before it can be made. It may be that during the ritual process, Wang Fu had a fight with someone. Yuan said in a deep voice. Wang Zhaohei heard it and asked hurriedly, "Master Zuo, then where should we investigate?" This clue, but they had never traced it before. "It's very simple. You immediately investigate the water branch near Shan County City. There were many strange drownings 6 months ago. If there is no coincidence, there should be only one place." Yuan said coldly. "Okay, I'll send someone to investigate." Wang Zhaohei walked out of the house impatiently. He knew that this time it was very likely that the murderer would be tracked down. Shan County City relies on the Jiang River, and there are so many water branches. If an ordinary person wants to investigate, I don't know how long it will take. But what is the status of the Wang family in Shan County City? Wang Zhaohei even went to Zheng's house and asked Zheng Long to mobilize the county government to investigate for him. That afternoon, a case file was handed to Wang Zhaohei. When Wang Zhaohei finished reading it, his hands trembled and his face was grim. "It turned out to be you. It turned out to be you." Wang Zhaohei kept drawing. Yuan sat next to Wang Zhaohei, and he also took the case file directly from Wang Zhaohei and read it himself. The name of the case file was the Jiangxin village disappearance case. Jiangxin fisherman disappeared. Qin Yang, the evil man of the patrol department, took over, and the constable Meng Feng assisted. Yuan quickly finished reading the case file. He asked again, "Half a year ago, there was only this case?" "Yes, there were a large number of fishermen missing in this case." Wang Zhaohei gritted his teeth. "Then it was him. It's not a water ghost at all. This person concealed the case. I'm afraid it's also to conceal the truth. My poor disciple should be killed by him." Yuan sneered. "Master Zuo, this man is not simple." Wang Zhaohei calmed down. "He is just a demon killer. After killing him, I will flee far away. What can the patrol of heaven do to me?" Yuan said coldly. "No. Not long ago, Qin Yang once rushed into the Han family alone. Wang Zhaohei told Qin Yang's deeds. He is just a Ganki warrior. Not to worry about." Yuan still did not take Qin Yang seriously. But he has not appeared for a long time. During this period, several major families in our city have been fighting with the patrol of heaven. They originally wanted to assassinate this boy, but Qin Yang is hiding in the patrol of heaven. Wang Zhaohei frowned. "This is a bit troublesome." Yuan also frowned. "With his strength, it is indeed impossible to break into the patrol of heaven. It may not be a way." A loud laugh came from outside the hall. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143 Yin and Yang Life and Death. The bloody storm and fierce fighting in the outside world did not affect Qin Yang at all. He didn't even know what happened, and he was hiding in the wooden house in the back mountain to practice hard. These days, he was immersed in practicing the Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman Sutra. This horizontal training method really made him feel a very magical feeling. Because when he practiced it, he found that it was far from as simple as he imagined. Even though Qin Yang had remembered the patterns of the Yin Yang double talisman clearly, but when it really started to work, he found that there were still many problems. Because the human body's blood vessels are too complicated, some are thick and some are thin, and the operation requires extremely subtle control of the blood and qi, otherwise it will lead to failure. Qin Yang has always been accustomed to opening and closing, and he has never tried this kind of subtle control. He can only try to finely control the blood and qi through a deeply focused mental state. This alone took Qin Yang 7 days. However, in these 7 days, Qin Yang felt that he had gained a lot. He felt that his control of the blood and qi was more precise, and he could control it freely and exert force more smoothly. This day, Qin Yang sat cross-legged on the big blue stone in the back mountain, and the sun just fell on him. Since it was daytime, he could only practice Yin Fu. After Qin Yang recalled the blood and qi path of Yin Fu in his mind, he began to stimulate blood and qi. In a trance, Qin Yang felt that he had turned into a Taoist priest, holding a brush, and began to draw a talisman on a blank yellow talisman. This rune was extremely complex and mysterious, and there could not be any mistakes, otherwise all the previous efforts would be wasted. He concentrated his mind, and moved the brush with his wrist without any pause. The complex rune was slowly outlined, and the blood and qi also flowed throughout the body. Yin Fu is the talisman of death. As the rune became more and more complete, Qin Yang seemed to hear many strange sounds. It was like the whispers of the dead souls, the wailing of the resentful souls, and the roar of the evil souls. It seemed that countless dead people were telling Qin Yang something. Qin Yang even felt a kind of cold touch coming from his body. It was as if an invisible cold palm was touching him. Qin Yang was unmoved, completely ignoring all the changes, and continued to stimulate blood and outline the Yin Fu. This was the first time Qin Yang encountered such a situation. The martial arts of Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman Sutra was indeed more bizarre than he had expected. After an unknown amount of time, Qin Yang finally drew out the Yin Talisman completely in his body. But he couldn't stop practicing. At present, he was only halfway done. He needed to draw out the Yang Talisman as well, to be considered as getting started. He operated the Yin Talisman over and over again, getting familiar with the circulation of qi and blood. At this stage, time passed quickly. The dark blood-red sunset was gradually sinking. When the sun went down, Qin Yang suddenly changed the circulation of qi and blood, and drew out the Yang Talisman. The practice of the Yang Talisman went very smoothly. Qin Yang only felt that his blood became hotter and his body became hot, but he didn't have strange hallucinations like the Yin Talisman. He only needed to control the qi and blood, and make no mistakes. After midnight, Qin Yang completely drew out the Yang Talisman in his body. But when the Yang Talisman qi and blood were formed, it seemed to be superimposed with the original Yin Talisman qi and blood. Yin and Yang alternated, and life and death flowed. Qin Yang's body was quickly washed by the Yin and Yang qi and blood, and it was transformed. When he opened his eyes, the left eye was Yang, bright white like a lamp. The right eye was Yin, deep and dark. Host, Qin Yang Beaming Black Water True Art, 3rd level, 870 thousandths, Yin and Yang Life and Death Talisman Sutra, 1st level, Yin Talisman. 1/250 Yang Talisman. 1/250, Dragon Elephant Fist, Proficient, 1237/1500, Evil Dragon Swallowing Evil Blade, Proficient, 456/1500, Turtle Snake Art. Perfect, Extreme Cold. Finally, the Yin and Yang Life and Death Talisman Sutra appeared on the system panel. 2 branches. Does it mean that I need to meet the proficiency of both Yin Talisman and Yang Talisman at the same time before I can break through to the next level? Quite interesting, Qin Yang muttered. It was obviously the first time he had encountered such a period of 2 proficiency levels in this technique. Qin Yang put away the panel and felt the magical effect of this technique. He did not try the Yin Talisman for the time being. When he activated the Yang Talisman, he felt that his body was as fast as if its potential was stimulated. His speed and strength suddenly increased. It's really amazing. It's a pity that the Yin Talisman can only be activated after being injured. Qin Yang continued to practice the Yang Talisman. In the days that followed, Qin Yang was still in hard practice and did not hear about worldly affairs. A month passed in the blink of an eye. On the first day of the new year, the whole city was paying attention. In the early morning, there were people who got up and rushed to the execution ground on the outskirts of the city. because today was the day for Han Baocheng to be executed. Execution ground on the outskirts of the city. Gongsun Liang arrived early in the morning and was sitting in a pergola, drinking warm millet porridge. Hundreds of Yamen runners stood around the execution ground, even wearing armor and holding sharp blades to prevent the people from approaching. The county lieutenant is here. Get out of the way. Several tall and strong constables squeezed out a path. Zheng Long entered wearing a tiger-headed uniform and walked majestically to the pergola where Gongsun Liang was. Hey, why is the Zheng County magistrate here? I don't think I informed you. Gongsun Liang asked with a smile. Sir, as the county magistrate, I'm responsible for the public security of Shan County. There are so many people gathered today, I'm afraid something will happen, so I brought people here. Zheng Long said softly. Then I will trouble the Zheng County magistrate. Please sit down. Gongsun Liang invited Zheng Long to sit next to him. Zheng Long sat down with a big move. Sir, today is the beheading. Why haven't the prisoners appeared yet? Zheng Long asked with a smile. Then I don't know. This is the idea of Lucy Xiao. I'm just going through the motions. When he comes, you can ask him. Gongsun Liang smiled. I hope there will be no problems on the way. After all, the patrol of the sky should not have done such a job before. Zheng Long smiled. Then I don't know. I'm only responsible for supervising the beheading, and I don't care about the rest. Gongsun Liang shook his head. Zheng Long stopped talking, looked in the direction of the patrol of the sky, and narrowed his eyes. Today's millet porridge is good. Give me another bowl. Gongsun Liang had a good appetite. After drinking a bowl, he wanted another bowl. Okay. The slightly fat scholar picked up the bowl and went to arrange it. At the gate of the patrol department, Han Baocheng, who looked depressed, was imprisoned in a prisoner's car. His hands and feet were tied with special iron chains, and even a master of Ganki couldn't break free. The Linup responsible for escorting the prisoner's car this time was quite luxurious. Lu Shengaiyu personally went out. Han Qianyu and Zhang Zhao were on the left and right, and there were dozens of evil killing people. In the dark, many people from the patrol department were ambushing. This time, escort Han Baocheng to the execution ground. I don't know if Zheng Long will choose to attack on the road or at the execution ground. Be sure to be careful. Lu Shengaiyu instructed. Don't worry, Chief. The people from the patrol department have been sent out. We can immediately detect any movement from the other side. Zhang Zhao said quickly. Then let's go. Lu Shengaiyu nodded. Chapter 144 Beheading. According to Lu Sheng's estimation, Zheng Long would most likely attack on the way. First of all, if he attacked on the way, there wouldn't be so many eyes watching. Once he attacked in the execution ground, he would be in the public eye. Once he was exposed, the impact would be too bad. Moreover, it was convenient to attack on the way. He could choose a place suitable for a sneak attack and quickly retreat after kidnapping Han Baocheng. The weather is good today. Han Baocheng leaned listlessly against the cold iron pillar of the prison car, looking at the sky. The weather was clear and the sun was strong. Well, it's a good day to go on the road. Lu Shengaiyu followed the prison car and nodded slightly when he heard Han Baocheng's words. We are indeed going on the road. Han Baocheng sighed slightly, shook his head and smiled. Lu Shengaiyu, you underestimated Zheng Long. What do you mean? Lu Shengaiyu narrowed his eyes. I can't say that we will see the result later. Han Baocheng smiled. Wait and see. Lu Shengaiyu nodded. The escort team continued to move forward on the earthy yellow official road. This process was smoother than Lu Shengaiyu imagined. An hour later, they arrived at the suburban execution ground smoothly without encountering any attacks on the road. The people from the patrol department are here. They are escorting Han Baocheng. A loud shout suddenly came from the crowd. For a moment, the onlookers turned their heads. They saw dozens of people escorting a prisoner's car. The Yamen runners and constables of the county government did not make any move and did not clear the way for the prisoner's car. The prisoner in the prison car was the father-in-law of the county lieutenant Zheng Long. Clearing the way for him was like opening a road to the underworld. Who dared to do this? Seeing this, Zhang Zhao led his men to squeeze through the crowd in front. Soon, a path was squeezed out of the originally dense crowd. The prisoner's car was able to enter the execution ground. The prisoner's car is finally here. But there is still some time before noon. Would County Lieutenant Zeng want to say a few words to your father-in-law? Don't worry, I still have some favors. Gongsun Liang narrowed his eyes and chuckled. Thank you for your concern, sir. Han Baocheng has committed many evil deeds, and he deserves his punishment. I have nothing to say. Zeng Long shook his head gently. Zeng County Magistrate is indeed fair and strict. Gongsun Liang praised. Facing Gongsun Liang's weirdness, Zeng Long remained calm and sat in his seat without any abnormal movement. Lu Shengaiu asked Zhang Zhao to bring Han Baocheng to the wooden platform, and he came to the pergola. Gongsun County Magistrate, Zeng County Magistrate. You two are here really early. Lu Shengaiu greeted. The government office is close to here. It's normal to come early. But Chief Lu has worked hard. Did you encounter any trouble along the way? Gongsun Liang asked with a smile. Haha, how could there be trouble? Lu Shengaiu said, and sat down directly next to Zeng Long. In this way, it seems that Zeng Long has become the most important person at the scene, sandwiched between Lu Shengaiu and Gongsun Liang. Zeng Long smiled, but his face was not smiling. It's good that there is no trouble. The most fearful thing is trouble. Zeng Chunwei is right. Lu Shengaiu nodded. The conversation stopped here. The three of them stopped talking and waited quietly for noon to come. The sun gradually became fiercer. Soon it was noon. The hot weather could not drive away many people. Countless eyes were staring at the kneeling figure on the wooden platform. Naturally, no executioner dared to take on the execution of Han Baocheng this time, so Zhang Zhao had to play a guest role. The time has come. Let's execute him. Lu Shengaiu said lightly. Gongsun Liang glanced at Zeng Long, but found that he did not express anything. He said cheerfully, it's all up to Lu Sishao. Lu Shengaiu was not vague, and directly picked up a fire sign, and threw it out. Zhang Zhao raised his hand and the knife fell. Ah! Han Baocheng screamed. The head fell to the ground immediately. Gilu Han Baocheng's head rolled on the ground for several circles before it stopped. The pair of eyes that were still open in death were looking at the direction where Zeng Long was. He seemed to be questioning why Zeng Long didn't save him. Zeng Long's eyes didn't evade at all, just staring at Han Baocheng's head. Gongsun Liang looked at Zeng Long with some surprise. He didn't expect Zeng Long to be so patient. He watched Han Baocheng being killed indifferently, cold-blooded and forbearing. Lu Shengaiu's eyes flickered. Zeng Long didn't take action, which really made him feel uncomfortable. Zeng Long suddenly stood up and led his people out of the shed without saying a word. The people saw Han Baocheng's head fall to the ground and gradually dispersed. Since Han Baocheng has been executed, let's go back first. Please trouble the Governor Gongsun to deal with Han Baocheng's body. Lu Shengaiu said softly. Leave it to me. Gongsun Liang nodded. Lu Shengaiu and his group returned to the Zunshan division. On the way, Han Qianyu couldn't help asking, the head of the division is a little abnormal. Zhang Zhao also said, with Zeng Long's personality, it is impossible for him to bear it. Lu Shengaiu was naturally thinking about this problem, but he couldn't figure it out either. If Zeng Long was a coward, he would not have torn his face with the Sky Patrol before. Lu Shengaiu did not think that Zeng Long was afraid. There must be some reason. First, the Sky Patrol. Lu Shengaiu shook his head. It's not that easy to go back. Suddenly, a mysterious man wearing a ghost mask and holding an iron pen suddenly appeared on the official road. The 12th floor master of Blackfish Tower. I didn't expect Zeng Long to invite you. Lu Shengaiu snorted coldly. Lu Shengaiu, you destroyed my Blackfish Tower. Today you will pay with blood. The 12th floor master of Blackfish sneered. He didn't say too much nonsense and directly attacked. The iron pen in his hand waved, like some kind of calligraphy, leaving a strange ink color in the void, and stabbed at Lu Shengaiu fiercely. Today, I will destroy your Blackfish. Lu Shengaiu sneered. His muscles became bigger, his two arms became more slender, and his fists were like flying stars, hitting out swiftly. Bang after the right fist collided with the iron pen. Plum Blossom Seal. The 12th Blackfish Building Master sneered, and the iron pen tapped out continuously, as if it turned into plum blossoms in the void. Lu Shengaiu was powerful, and his pair of iron fists kept bombarding, taking on his offensive. The two real energy warriors fought too fiercely. The entire official road was covered with dust. Han Qianyu and Zhang Zhao led their men away first. At this time, kill. Someone is attacking. Suddenly, the sound of fighting continued to be heard near the official road. The people of the Zunming department who had been hiding in the dark all the way seemed to have been attacked. Prepare to fight. Zhang Zhao drew out his long knife and roared. After a few breaths, dozens of black-clothed people attacked. These black-clothed people had a strong aura, and the worst were actually key gathering warriors, and there were more than 10 real energy warriors. Han Qianyu immediately drew his sword, turning into a cold white light that penetrated the sand all over the sky. Puff! A black-clothed man didn't have time to react, and was pierced through the throat by Han Qianyu's sword. Die. A fierce wind sound suddenly came from behind. Han Qianyu was frightened. But the knife was too fast, and she didn't have time to turn around. At the critical moment of life and death, Han Qianyu heard another sound of breaking through the air. A straight knife chopped down diagonally, just blocking the knife light attacking Han Qianyu. With a clang, two figures suddenly appeared in Han Qianyu's eyes. The figure in front of her was of ordinary build, wearing a bamboo hat, and had a cold breath. The figure a little further away was masked, holding a big knife in one hand. Chapter 145 Attack. I didn't expect you to choose to fight on the way back instead of at the execution ground. The swordsman in the bamboo hat said calmly, holding a straight knife. He was the helper that Lu Shengyu invited from the Yangning Patrol Department. Like Lu Shengyu, he was also a silver medal evil killer. As for the masked man opposite him, he didn't speak. His eyes were full of murderous intent, and without saying a word, he immediately raised his knife to kill the swordsman in the bamboo hat. The two long swords fought fiercely, and the sharp sword energy burst out from time to time, leaving deep marks on the ground. Seeing this situation, Han Qianyu was very smart not to step forward to help the swordsman in the bamboo hat. The fight between the real gang warriors, if she went forward, she would only cause trouble. It would be better to deal with the other black-clothed people first. For a while, the whole official road was filled with shouts and killings, and corpses kept falling. There were people from the patrol department, and there were also black-clothed people who attacked secretly. They fought for a whole incense stick. The 12th master of the Blackfish building and Lu Shengyu were still fighting hard. The masked man and the swordsman in the bamboo hat even fought all the way away from the official road, and their figures could not be seen. Suddenly, the 12th owner of the Blackfish building used some secret method, and the iron pen suddenly drew a strange big word in the void. Mountain seal. This black big word was like a black mountain, pressing towards Lu Shengyu in the air, looking for death. Lu Shengyu roared wildly, and his right fist suddenly emitted white light, like a gorgeous flying star. Bang! The fierce fist force instantly shattered the mountain seal. A large area of black light spread. The owner of the Blackfish building smiled strangely, and took this opportunity to retreat. Lu Shengyu frowned slightly, but did not chase him. The attacking black-clothed man seemed to have received some information, suddenly gave up fighting, and retreated quickly. Lu Shengyu ordered not to pursue and reorganize the people. Chief C. Zhang Zhao him. Han Qianyu's dress was stained with blood. She came in front of Lu Shengyu and shook her head slightly. Lu Shengyu's face changed, whereas Han Qianyu took Lu Shengyu over. Zhang Zhao was lying on the ground, with a big hole in his stomach, and blood was constantly flowing out. Boss, I didn't expect to die here. Zhang Zhao laughed miserably. Lu Shengyu took a deep breath. I promise you, I will definitely let those people be buried with you. Zhang Zhao shook his head. Boss, I'm worried about the child in the state capital. The child is only 3 years old. Don't worry. He will be my grandson in the future. Lu Shengyu said in a deep voice. Thank you very much. Zhang Zhao got Lu Shengyu's promise. His eyes slowly closed, and his head tilted. Zhenglong. Blackfish Tower. Lu Shengyu gritted his teeth. This is. The swordsman with a bamboo hat also returned, and when he saw Zhang Zhao's body, he sighed slightly. Old Lu is not right. These people don't seem to come to attack us, but more like delaying time and confusing us. The swordsman with a bamboo hat whispered. Just like the 12th master of the Blackfish Tower. When he was fighting fiercely with the masked man, the other party suddenly found an opportunity to withdraw. Delay. Could it be the patrol department? Lu Shenggai's expression changed drastically, and he looked towards the direction of the patrol department. HU. Qin Yang felt his nose itchy and sneezed. Who is thinking about me in broad daylight? Qin Yang muttered. He had been practicing hard for so long, and was walking on the mountain path from the back mountain back to the patrol department. After a few jumps, Qin Yang entered the patrol department. But today's patrol department was particularly deserted. Where did everyone go? Qin Yang looked strange. In the past, the patrol department was deserted, but it was not so deserted that there was no one to see, like a ghost town. He walked to the demon slaying hall, but found that even Han Kaianai was not there. But here, Qin Yang finally met a living person. And demon slaying man was on duty inside. After Qin Yang talked to him, he learned about what had happened recently. I missed so much excitement. Qin Yang was surprised when he heard about the recent fights between the patrol department and several major families. If I had known that I would have come out of seclusion yesterday, maybe I could have gone to the execution ground to have fun. Qin Yang felt sorry. If Brother Qin wants to find Director Han, you may have to wait a while. It is estimated that they will return from the execution ground after noon. The evil killing person on duty said. Qin Yang's reputation has spread throughout the patrol department, and everyone knows it. Then I'll go for a stroll first. Qin Yang nodded gently. He didn't have many friends in the patrol department, so he thought about going to the Zuanling department to find Song Lingzi. When he walked to the empty square in the center of the patrol department, he frowned slightly. For some reason, he seemed to hear some strange movements. It shouldn't be. Who dares to come to the patrol department to make trouble? Qin Yang felt that he was too sensitive. But the next moment, his expression changed drastically. Most of the people in the patrol department today, especially the evil killing department and the patrol department, were taken away by Lu Shenggaiu. Whoosh! Qin Yang heard the sound of something tearing the air apart. He turned his head suddenly. A dark stream of light spun rapidly and shot towards him. The black light expanded rapidly in Qin Yang's eyes. It was shooting towards his eyeballs. A big hand grabbed the arrow steadily. It's really like killing the patrol of the sky. It seems that there is still a lot of fun without going to the execution ground. Qin Yang grinned. The next moment, countless malicious thoughts came from all directions of the patrol of the sky. One by one, dark arrows attacked violently, bursting with sharp hisses. It's useless. Qin Yang shook his head slightly. Boom. A cold and deep dark airflow lingered out, turning into an illusory black armored dragon entwining his whole body. Ding ding ding, all the arrows shot at him continued to explode and turned into iron scraps. It seemed that he saw that the crossbow was ineffective against Qin Yang. A masked figure appeared in the eaves of the square building, looking at Qin Yang in the center of the square, with hatred as strong as the water of a big river. Qin Yang, I want you to pay for my son's life. Wang Zhaohe roared in his heart. He came here today just to avenge his son Wang Fu. The world is full of suffering, and hell is terrifying. You can transcend by reaching the other shore. Qin Yang did not notice Wang Zhaohe's appearance, because he heard a familiar and strange chanting. The other shore sect Zhenglong was not there first, and he could even call the other shore sect over. Qin Yang's eyes turned cold. The next moment, screams continued to sound in the patrol department. Enemy attack. The other shore sect attacked. Screams rang out in various parts of the patrol department. Then there was the sound of violent collapse, the sound of swords and weapons. There were all kinds of sounds. Even after a few breaths, black smoke could be seen rising from some buildings in the patrol department. Qin Yang did not go anywhere, but stayed in the center of the square. Because dozens of figures had appeared from all over and rushed towards him. These people were very strong, with strange red runes painted on their arms and faces, and their eyes were empty. Evil corpses. Qin Yang could tell at a glance that these people were not living people at all. They might be evil corpses made by the other shore cult using some evil method. A blood-red evil corpse was the fastest, and it pounced on Qin Yang like a vicious tiger. Bang! A violent thunder roared. Qin Yang's left hand quickly sent out a thunder palm, hitting the blood-red evil corpse's head hard. Chapter 146, Grudges. Bang! The head of the blood-red evil corpse was blown up by Qin Yang. Then, more than a dozen blood-red evil corpses roared and attacked. There were attacks from every angle, leaving Qin Yang no way to avoid them. Looking for death, Qin Yang roared wildly and stomped his right leg hard on the ground. Dragon elephant, 10,000 heavy stomps. It was as if a terrifying giant beast was trampling the earth, accompanied by a thunderous sound. The ground of the entire Zhongxianxi square shook violently, and then shook. Those blood-red evil corpses that rushed to the vicinity of Qin Yang felt a terrible shock force coming from the ground, and were knocked to the ground. There were also 2 blood-red evil corpses that pounced in the air, and were not affected. Qin Yang drew out the Lingyu sword, and the blade wrapped with a broken front divine ability swept across, forming a half-moon blade light, instantly cutting the 2 blood-red evil corpses in half. His eyes were excited, and he turned into a black shadow and rushed into the blood-red evil corpse group. The deep and cold blade light was scattered all over, as if it had turned into layers of cold and dense forests. The number of blood-red evil corpses seemed to be large, but in fact they were suppressed and covered by the sword light slashed by Qin Yang alone. It was as if they were trapped in a wild forest full of murderous intent, and were constantly slashed by sharp sword light. There was a bloody storm. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the dozens of blood-red evil corpses were slashed by Qin Yang. Sinner, you will never reach the other side. A figure in a robe rushed out. This figure was an ordinary old man, but his eyes were full of malice. His hands were wrapped in bloodlight, and he stabbed Qin Yang at a high speed. In Qin Yang's eyes, it seemed that there were thousands of bloodlights, and he could not recognize the opponent's punches. Illusion? Qin Yang shook his head, holding the Lingyu sword in one hand, and stood in place. Bang bang bang. Dense blood spots exploded on Qin Yang's body, but his Yunyuan ki was too strong, and the opponent could not shake it at all. Found you. Qin Yang felt the strength of the beating all over his body, suddenly grinned, and his left hand suddenly grabbed to the left and back. A skinny and powerful arm was grabbed by him and pulled hard. Ah! An arm was torn off by Qin Yang. The old man in the robe screamed. The next moment, a ray of knife light made his head fall to the ground. At this time, a sinister sword light suddenly attacked. This sword light came from the air, like an eagle's claws, stabbing at Qin Yang's neck diagonally. The sword light was so fierce that even the air was cut into pieces. Qin Yang actually reacted and raised his knife high to chop. After practicing the dragon elephant fist, his strength has greatly increased. In addition, he practiced the Yin Yang life and death talisman sutra for a month, and his powerful strength was like a giant beast. There was a clang. The fierce sword light was suppressed by the Lingyu knife, but the figure tapped the tip of the sword on the ground, cleverly borrowed the force, and his body was horizontal in the air, and his right leg kicked Qin Yang's head fiercely. This kick was very fierce, forming a violent gust of wind. Qin Yang raised his left hand, like a dragon and an elephant swinging his arm. Dragon elephant, infinite heavy whip. The secret of this move is that it can be used at any time, and it can burst out huge power, even if the posture is strange. Moreover, after practicing the Yin Yang life and death talisman, Qin Yang has a very exquisite control over the blood and ki, and the blood and ki can burst out at will. Bang! The left fist hit the opponent's ankle fiercely. The two fierce ki collided fiercely, and a stream of extremely cold air suddenly burst out. The figure was punched out and fell more than 10 meters away. Qin Yang, you are really amazing. Wang Zhaohe stood up quickly, holding a long sword, and his voice was cold. His right foot was still trembling slightly. An extremely cold breath was freezing his skin and flesh. You seem to hate me very much. Qin Yang felt Wang Zhaohe's hatred for him and grinned. The hatred of killing a son is irreconcilable. Wang Zhaohe gritted his teeth. Killing a son. Let me think about it. I have killed many people, but there are not many fathers with your strength. You are not Wang Zhaohe? Qin Yang quickly came up with an answer in his mind. Wang Zhaohe did not answer, but stepped forward and rushed towards Qin Yang. A fierce aura erupted from Wang Zhaohe. The sword technique he practiced was called Flying Eagle Sword Technique, which was like a flying eagle swooping down on its prey, fierce and bloody. The sharp sword light whistled out and stabbed out quickly. Qin Yang seemed to see a big eagle swooping down on him. He smiled slightly and charged with a knife. Roar! An even more violent and cold aura erupted from him, as if he had turned into a ferocious dragon. Bang bang bang. The sword lights and shadows kept interweaving. The dragon roared, and the big eagle cried. It was as if two ferocious beasts were fighting. Qin Yang's evil spirit became more violent, and he stabbed forward with a knife. This knife was like a dragon swinging its claws, and it suddenly tore off the big eagle's wings bloodily. Ah! Wang Zhaohei screamed, and was slashed in the chest by Qin Yang's knife, and flew backwards. Both sides were ganky warriors, but their combat power was completely different. Qin Yang's strength, explosive power, speed, and even the quality of his ki far surpassed Wang Zhaohei. Wang Zhaohei was able to fight with Qin Yang for so many moves, and he was at the top among the key warriors. Wang Zhaohei, I'm a kind and generous person. I will send you to reunite with Wang Fu. Qin Yang grinned. Just you? Suddenly, a small flag suddenly attacked. The small flag was dark in color, and it seemed to pierce Qin Yang like a flying sword. Qin Yang laughed wildly. Just me. He held the knife with both hands, and slashed forward fiercely. When the Lingyu knife chopped into the dark flag, Qin Yang felt a dead air rushing towards him. He seemed to see a ferocious ghost appearing on the flag of the dark flag, and rushing towards him. But Qin Yang did not move. You think this little illusion can shake my mind? Break. Qin Yang shouted coldly. The ferocious ghost roared, but its figure disappeared strangely. Swoosh, the dark flag turned back in the air, and fell into the hands of a sinister Taoist priest with no flesh on his face. Who are you? Qin Yang narrowed his eyes. I'm Zhuo Yuan. Wang Fu is my disciple. Zhuo Yuan said coldly. So it's the master who is here. Interesting. Qin Yang licked his lips. Zhuo Yuan gave him a very dangerous feeling. This man is definitely not just a ground soul master, he is probably a sky soul master. Today I will take your life to accompany Wang Fu in his burial. Zhuo Yuan sneered and chanted a spell. Mysterious ghost curse. He kept shaking the dark flag with his right hand. The black light flashed, and it turned into a vicious resentful spirit, which suddenly pounced on Qin Yang. Too slow. At the moment, when the vicious resentful spirit attacked, Qin Yang suddenly slashed forward with a knife. Puff! The resentful spirit instantly turned into a black gas and dissipated. But this black gas strangely attached to Qin Yang. Qin Yang frowned slightly, and tried to circulate the beaming black water key to disperse the black air, but found that the black air disappeared by itself. No. Qin Yang felt something was wrong. He had a fine control over his blood. He suddenly found that he seemed to be getting weaker. This change was very subtle, but it was real. Is this the influence of a spell? Qin Yang was startled, and then looked at Zhuo Yuan coldly. Chapter 147, Strong Wall. Zhuo Yuan felt a cold murderous intent from Qin Yang's eyes. The next moment, he saw Qin Yang suddenly turned into a black light and swept over. The fierce sword light like a dragon slashed down fiercely. Zhuo Yuan slapped the jade card on his waist fiercely. The jade card suddenly expanded and turned into a jade wall blocking Zhuo Yuan. With a clang, Lingyu knife fiercely left deep knife marks in the jade wall. Thousand Ghost Curse. The next moment, Zhuo Yuan cast a spell again. The white jade wall suddenly stretched out dozens of pale ghost hands and grabbed Qin Yang. Qin Yang didn't expect that this jade wall would be so weird. He was really caught by several ghost hands, looking for death. Qin Yang roared wildly, and his left hand suddenly condensed to majestic blood and hit hard. It was like the roar of a dragon and elephant. Dragon elephant millions of destroy mountains. Solidly, violently, and fiercely hit the jade wall. With a terrifying loud noise, the jade wall shook violently, and the extended ghost hands were shattered by the violent force. Not broken? Qin Yang frowned slightly. He originally wanted to smash the jade wall with one punch. He didn't expect that the jade wall was so hard. Just when he was about to punch again, the jade wall suddenly disappeared. Zhuo Yuan had already moved away from Qin Yang and appeared dozens of meters away. At the same time, he also took advantage of this time to summon more than a dozen vicious resentful spirits. Pointing at one point, these more than a dozen vicious resentful spirits roared and rushed over. Qin Yang thought of the strange feeling just now and frowned slightly. But the opponent came to kill him, so he could only swing his sword to cut. The combat power of these vicious resentful spirits did not seem to be very strong, and any knife could cut them into pieces. But when these resentful spirits were cut into pieces, they turned into streams of cold black air and kept attaching to Qin Yang. It was as if some kind of curse was superimposed. Qin Yang felt that he was getting weaker, and the circulation of his internal energy was not as smooth as before. A sword cry like an eagle suddenly resounded throughout the Xianxi square. This time, Qin Yang's reaction seemed to be slower. He slashed at the direction of the eagle howling sword, but missed. Even the primordial key seemed to become less tenacious, and was pierced by the sword. Puff! The long sword left a bloody hole on Qin Yang's chest. Qin Yang roared wildly, and slammed Wang Zhaohei with a palm. The opponent quickly drew out his long sword and dodged. This guy has been hit by my Zuan Gui curse, and will only become weaker and weaker. Zhuo Yuan sneered. As he said that, he suddenly sacrificed the small flag in his hand. The dark small flag quickly expanded in the air, and turned into a large flag 5 or 6 meters long, which was slammed towards Qin Yang. The void was stretched out into a large black shadow. Qin Yang held the knife with both hands, and slashed directly at the dark small flag. With a bang. This time, Qin Yang was actually slammed directly by the dark big flag. He crashed into a hole. Zhuo Yuan grinned, lightly tapped his finger, and the dark big flag flew in instantly. Boom. After several loud noises, another figure was violently pulled out. Qin Yang stood up from the ground with disheveled hair. The next moment, Wang Zhaohei appeared behind him, stabbing his back with a sword. Qin Yang didn't even react this time, but the sense of danger made him move his body. With a puff, another blood hole appeared on his back. Qin Yang roared, and turned around, and chopped down with a knife. Wang Zhaohei smiled slightly, raised his sword and retreated. Qin Yang, you're dead. Do you think you'll be fine if you hide in the sky patrol? Too naive. Let's see who can save you this time. Wang Zhaohei looked at Qin Yang, who was bleeding all over, and laughed wildly. Zhuo Yuan also sneered. In their eyes, Qin Yang would definitely die this time. To be honest, Qin Yang's current condition is indeed very bad. It's mainly because of Zhuo Yuan's strange spell, like a curse, which constantly weakens his blood and makes him weak. Qin Yang really suffered a great loss when he encountered this kind of spell for the first time. Don't you think I really need someone to save me? Qin Yang shook his head, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and grinned. Qin Yang was hit by my mysterious ghost spell, but it's not so easy to remove it. Zhuo Yuan sneered. No need to remove it. Qin Yang looked at Zhuo Yuan seriously. The weaker I am, the more serious the injury, and I will become stronger. Yinfu, open. Qin Yang roared with a ferocious face. At this moment, his blood instantly outlined the Yinfu in his body. It was as if some shackles were untied. Qin Yang's whole body quickly became larger, and his skin quickly appeared with dark blue and terrifying rune veins, exuding an extremely cold and deep underworld breath. This, Zhuo Yuan frowned. The feeling Qin Yang gave him now, not like a living person, but not like a dead person. In the Yin Yang Life and Death Talisman Sutra, the Yinfu is strange and terrifying. It can only be opened after being seriously injured and feeling death. Once opened, it will explode with terrifying power. Qin Yang's body even reached about 2.5 meters. His eyes had no whites and were as dark as a prison. Hide. Zhuo Yuan shouted loudly. He was reminding Wang Zhaohei. At this time, Wang Zhaohei also felt a terrifying aura from Qin Yang and was about to retreat. Can you run away? Qin Yang grinned. He seemed to have turned into a ghostly light and shadow. The Lingyu sword in his hand was wrapped in the aura of death. The blade trembled and made a sound like a dragon's roar and suddenly slashed. Wang Zhaohei subconsciously raised his long sword. Before he raised it, bang, a deep knife light fell. Wang Zhaohei's entire head and half of his shoulder were cut open by Qin Yang's sword. Tick-tock, the tip of the knife dripped blood. Qin Yang smiled at Zhuo Yuan in the distance. You are the only one left. Zhuo Yuan was shocked. He didn't know what secret method Qin Yang used to burst out such a terrifying power. But he didn't panic too much. This kind of secret method usually can't last too long. It was enough to delay for a while. When Qin Yang attacked with a deep and fierce aura, Zhuo Yuan once again used the jade token to protect himself, and at the same time, urged the dark flag. The flag of the big flag fluttered and rolled towards Qin Yang. A roar of a dragon suddenly sounded. Evil dragon, black sea devouring wave kill. Qin Yang's eyes were crazy, and he chopped with his hands. A black armored evil dragon suddenly broke free from the blade, and rushed towards the dark flag. Puff, the whole flag was chopped into pieces by a knife. At the same time, Qin Yang swung his knife again and chopped the big flag directly into pieces. His footsteps stepped out of a deep pit on the ground and shot towards Zhuo Yuan. Bang, the white jade wall appeared out of thin air and blocked Qin Yang. And Qin Yang just ran into it so madly and brutally. Boom, the whole jade wall shook wildly. Qin Yang threw down the Lingyu knife like crazy. The muscles of his two arms swelled wildly, twisted like a python, and hit the jade wall frantically. The speed of his punches was so fast that it even formed a dense black fist shadow. Boom. Finally, accompanied by a loud noise, the entire jade wall suddenly broke into pieces. Zhuo Yuan's expression changed drastically, and he stepped on it and fled quickly. A black light accelerated in the air and approached him suddenly. Qin Yang roared wildly, and his right foot swung heavily at Zhuo Yuan's head like an elephant's trunk. Dragon Elephant Infinite Heavy Whip. Chapter 148. Looking back. Bang. Zhuo Yuan was kicked hard by Qin Yang and suddenly turned into a black gas and dissipated. A broken flag fell from the air. This trick again. Qin Yang snorted coldly. All spiritual masters must have similar means of saving their lives. After all, their bodies are too fragile, and it is very dangerous once a warrior gets close to them. But Qin Yang had asked Song Lingzi before. Generally, when using this substitute to escape, the original body will not exceed a distance of 50 meters, and this secret method of escape cannot be used twice in a short period of time. Qin Yang seemed to lock on a certain direction and chased. After a few breaths, Zhuo Yuan's figure appeared again in the empty square. What a terrifying secret method. A Ganki warrior, even a Xianlin spiritual master like me is not a match. Fortunately, I tricked him. Zhuo Yuan looked at the direction where Qin Yang left with lingering fear. You finally appeared. A cold and chilly voice suddenly appeared. Zhuo Yuan's face flashed with panic. A figure suddenly appeared on the eaves of a building. Zhuo Yuan seemed panic-stricken, but suddenly bit his finger. Mysterious ghost cursed death. He pointed his hands at Qin Yang. In an instant, Qin Yang felt a strange wisp of black hair emerging from his body. These black hair were the black hair that had invaded his body before. Now they turned into a strange black ghost shadow, suddenly opening its dark mouth to bite Qin Yang. Qin Yang suddenly grabbed the twisted and strange neck and crushed it fiercely. Bang. Is this your last resort? Qin Yang asked lightly. No, Zhuo Yuan was completely panicked. But Qin Yang jumped directly from the eaves and turned into a dark light and shadow in the air. He appeared beside Zhuo Yuan almost instantly, and his big hand suddenly grabbed his head. Want to avenge your apprentice, right? Qin Yang's big hand pressed against Zhuo Yuan's head and kept rushing forward. No. Zhuo Yuan screamed miserably. Qin Yang laughed crazily and finally slammed him against a stone wall. The head of a spiritual master is not as hard as that of a warrior. With a snap, Zhuo Yuan's head was like a tomato. It exploded with a strong smell of blood. The whole wall was stained with flesh and blood, like some weird and bloody graffiti. Qin Yang's body shrank, and his blood no longer ran according to the Yin Fu, but quickly turned into Yang Fu. Yang Fu represents vitality, which can make vitality more vigorous and increase the speed of wound recovery. At this time, there were many strange chanting sounds in the Zunshan division, and many buildings were on fire. Qin Yang took out a bottle of Taiden and swallowed it, and rushed to Linxin building first. That place is the most important place in Zunshan division, containing many treasures and martial arts secrets. But when Qin Yang rushed to the vicinity of Linxin building, he only saw a pile of corpses. These people from the other Shore sect couldn't even get within 5 meters of Linxin building. It turned out to be you, kid. An old voice came from Linxin building. Qin Yang looked up. A hunchbacked old man walked out of Linxin building. Qin Yang looked surprised, because he had seen this old man before. When he first went to Linxin Tower and was reading Beaming Black Water True Art, this hunchbacked old man appeared and warned him. Even in his eyes now, he still couldn't tell the depth of this hunchbacked old man. You go somewhere else. I'm here. Nothing will happen. The hunchbacked old man said lightly. Understood. Qin Yang nodded and left with his knife. With this guy here, Linxin Tower would not be in trouble. This kid is really lucky. He even learned Beaming Black Water True Art. The hunchbacked old man thought thoughtfully. I didn't expect that there was such a person hidden in Linxin Tower. But this hunchbacked old man seems to only care about Lincoln Tower and not other places. Qin Yang thought in his heart. Since Lincoln Tower was fine, he began to clean up the disciples of the other Shore sect in Zunshan division. Even though he was seriously injured, Qin Yang had no pressure at all to deal with these disciples of the other Shore sect. Every time he swung the Lingyu knife, it was a life. The demon slaying division, the light surveying division, and the prison division. Qin Yang used his sword to quickly kill the disciples of the other Shore sect, making them tremble with fear. The people who were still alive in the patrol division followed Qin Yang and followed him to suppress the commotion. When Qin Yang led nearly 100 people to the vicinity of the Zuanling division, he found that it was shrouded in grey fog, and some strange noises were heard from time to time. "You wait here first, I'll go in and take a look," Qin Yang whispered. "Yes," the people in the patrol division said anxiously. Qin Yang rushed into the Zuanling division with the Lingyu sword. The Zuanling division was more tragic than Qin Yang had imagined. It might be that the other Shore sect had invested a lot of manpower here, and there were corpses everywhere. Some were living people, some were obviously evil corpses, and a large number of buildings collapsed. When Qin Yang walked forward for a while, he saw a corpse. It was a scholar, and the limbs of the corpse were very twisted, as if they were broken by some strange force. Qin Yang recognized him. The people of the Zuanling division. I don't know their names. I only remember that he was a scholar with very white skin. But now the white-faced scholar's face was covered in blood, and his eyes were wide open. Qin Yang shook his head slightly and continued to move forward. Originally, he thought that the Zuanling department should not be in too much danger. After all, Zhang Liao was in charge here. The head of the Zuanling department should not have gone to the execution ground. But now the white-faced scholar is dead. In other words, Song Lingzi may also be in danger. He has been to Song Lingzi's residence many times, and even if it is now shrouded in grey fog, he will not be unable to find the way. His figure moved forward quickly. Soon, he heard the sound of fierce fighting in front of him. "Damn it. You actually hurt my junior sister." Song Lingzi's two eyeballs were staring out, full of bloodshot. In front of him, a female evil spirit with disheveled hair and black eyes was fighting fiercely with a giant corpse. Judging from the situation on the field, the female evil spirit seemed to be suppressed by the giant corpse. With a puff, the arm of the female evil spirit was bitten off by the giant corpse. At the same time, the giant corpse waved its claws and slapped the face of the female evil spirit. Bang! The female evil spirit screamed and flew out fiercely. In the grey fog, another grey flying knife spun out and shot towards Song Lingzi. Song Lingzi pinched his hands and urged his spiritual energy. A white silk suddenly appeared from behind him, trying to wrap up the flying knife. But the flying knife was so sharp that it tore the white silk into pieces in an instant. Damn it. Song Lingzi watched the white silk being cut into pieces and could only dodge helplessly. The giant corpse roared and charged, hitting him right on top. Bang! Song Lingzi screamed and fell fiercely into a pile of ruins. The grey flying knife flew again. At the critical moment, the broken female evil spirit suddenly blocked in front of Song Lingzi. No! Song Lingzi screamed heartbreakingly. The female evil spirit was cut in half by the grey flying knife without any suspense. Before dying, the female evil spirit actually turned around and looked at Song Lingzi. Chapter 149 Aftermath. Song Lingzi watched helplessly as the evil spirit of the woman was cut in half by the grey flying knife, but he was powerless. "I will definitely kill you." Song Lingzi gritted his teeth, his face twisted. But he knew that now he could only run. Only after surviving could he take revenge. He suddenly turned into a white light and fled to the back. "Can you run away?" A man in a grey robe and a numb expression walked out of the grey fog. He lightly tapped his finger, and the grey flying knife spun around and shot forward again. Whoosh! The grey flying knife spun rapidly, cutting through the grey fog, and caught up with Song Lingzi in the blink of an eye. Damn it! Song Lingzi felt a sharp breath coming from behind, and his expression changed drastically, because in front, the giant corpse had blocked his way. This time, he had no way to escape. Suddenly, the grey fog rolled up on a large scale. Song Lingzi suddenly heard the roar of some kind of ferocious beast in his ears. A black armored evil dragon suddenly appeared from a distance, carrying a dark blue aura, and attacked. Bang! The grey flying knife was hit hard by the black armored evil dragon, and a strong airflow burst out. The next moment, a strong figure suddenly appeared behind the giant corpse, and his right leg was like a dragon elephant swinging its trunk, and it pulled it out fiercely. Bang! The terrifying impact force formed a strong wind that blew away and swung. The giant corpse screamed and was kicked to the ground. Rumble. The ground of the Zuenling department was shaking, and the bricks were cracked. The flesh and bones of the giant corpse were shattered and cracked by the huge force, and it was wailing and struggling on the ground like a maggot. Qin Yang. Song Lingzi saw the person coming, and his eyes were happy. Are you okay? Qin Yang came to Song Lingzi's side. It's okay. Do me a favor and kill that guy, please. Song Lingzi said seriously. Okay. Qin Yang didn't know what was going on. However, Song Lingzi rarely spoke in this tone, so he agreed. The numb man was also shocked when he saw Qin Yang. No way. Why are you still here? Before the sneak attack on the Patrol Heaven Division, the other Shore sect had naturally made full information preparations. This person was dealt with by a heavenly soul spirit master, so he shouldn't be alive. What do you think? Qin Yang grinned and suddenly turned into a black shadow and rushed out. The numb man was frightened and urged the flying knife again. Bang! Qin Yang rushed forward, allowing the flying knife to shoot at him, and the Hunyuan key could block it. In an instant, he rushed to the numb man and used a thunder palm. Bang! The numb man was like being struck by lightning, and his whole body exploded directly. Still want to escape? Song Lingzi was making preparations the moment Qin Yang made his move. He knew that the numb man would be forced by Qin Yang to use the secret method to save his life. More than a dozen white silks suddenly flew out and rushed into a house in the grey fog. Bang bang! Exclamation mark. After a fierce movement, a figure was tightly wrapped by the white silk and then dragged out. It was a numb man. He didn't expect Song Lingzi to be able to locate his escape location. I said, you must die. Song Lingzi's face was distorted and his eyes were full of resentment. He made seals with his hands. The white silk wrapped tighter and tighter, slowly squeezing the numb man into a bloody mess. The numb man screamed first and then laughed crazily. It's useless to kill me. The resentful soul has been scattered and you can never be resurrected again. With a puff, the numb man was silent. Qin Yang didn't know what happened, but after hearing what the numb man said, he roughly guessed something. No, she will definitely be able to be resurrected. Song Lingzi muttered to himself. Are you okay? Qin Yang interrupted Song Lingzi's muttering. If he didn't interrupt, this guy might go crazy. It's okay. It's okay. Song Lingzi regained some of his thoughts. Don't think too much. What's the situation of Zuenling department now? Qin Yang asked. Zhang Liao seems to be entangled by someone. Let's go and take a look. Song Lingzi shook his head to keep himself rational. Then let's go. Qin Yang said no more. Deep in the Zuenling department, two figures were fighting in the air. Zhang Liao controlled a yellow seal and was constantly colliding with a huge ring. The airwaves that spread out overturned the surrounding buildings. It seems that you lost this round. Zhang Liao suddenly laughed. I bet that Qin Yang would not make a move, but I didn't guess that a Cheyenne spiritual master was not a match for a Ganki warrior. A handsome middle-aged man stood opposite Zhang Liao and shook his head slightly. As he spoke, his body gradually became illusory. Zhang Liao did not chase, but just put away the yellow seal. This kind of person wanted to escape, and he couldn't stop him. Actually, I didn't expect it. Zhang Liao shook his head slightly. As the man left, the grey fog was gradually dissipating. Two figures rushed in quickly, but only Zhang Liao was seen. No need to look. The people from the other Shore cult should have withdrawn. Let's clean up the mess first. Zhang Liao shook his head. Qin Yang saw the dissipated mist and nodded gently. After that, Qin Yang led the people from the Sky Patrol Division to put out some burning buildings. Some collapsed buildings were also dug up to rescue the people trapped underneath. Half an hour later, Lu Shengaiyu finally brought people back. He was so angry when he saw the scene of the Sky Patrol Division. But as the head of the division, he couldn't show any loss of composure. He could only take over Qin Yang's work and clean up the mess first. Qin Yang was happy with this. His injuries were not light. After saying goodbye to Han Qianyu, he went back to his own courtyard to heal his injuries. Fortunately, this residential area was not attacked by the other shore cult and was well preserved. Head of the division. Nearly 100 people died. Nearly half of the buildings were damaged. Soon, Han Kai-Anayu reported the approximate casualties to Lu Shengaiyu. The dead should be properly arranged. Lu Shengaiyu sighed. One more thing. Qin Yang killed a heavenly soul spirit master, and even Wang Zhaohei, the head of the Wang family, also died under Qin Yang's knife. Han Kai-Anayu whispered. Heavenly soul spirit master? This kid is so strong. Lu Shengaiyu's eyes were full of shock. After he returned to the patrol department, he had been dealing with the aftermath and had no time to investigate these things. It should be. Han Kai-Anayu's shock was no less than Lu Shengaiyu's. Well, this kid did kill a heavenly soul spirit master. Zhang Liao also walked into the hall at this time. With such a big thing happening, even he, the head of the Zuanling department, could not stay out of it. Fortunately, this kid is here. Otherwise, the patrol department would be in ruins. Lu Shengaiyu said thankfully. In the current situation, the patrol department has suffered a heavy loss, but there is still room for recovery. If it becomes a ruin, I'm afraid he will be transferred directly back to the Yangning Patrol Department to accept punishment. Chapter 150 Leaving. Outside the city of Shan County, there is a dark manor. The lights flickered, sometimes bright and sometimes dim. The atmosphere in the house was solemn. I didn't expect that Qin Yang would show up halfway. This kid is really hateful. Zheng Long gritted his teeth. He had planned for a long time to attack the patrol department. In order to deal with Lu Shengaiyu's conspiracy, he chose to give up Han Baoqing and let the patrol department behead him. His real target was the patrol department. Everyone thought that Zheng Long would attack halfway or at the execution ground. Even Lu Shengaiyu calculated in this way and secretly arranged many people. But Zheng Long was cunning and didn't want to confront Lu Shengaiyu head on. He set his sights on the empty patrol department. As long as the patrol department's headquarters could be destroyed, the patrol department would no longer have any prestige in Shan County. For this reason, he even secretly contacted the other shore sect. The patrol department and the other shore sect were always at odds, so with such an opportunity, they naturally agreed. It has to be said that Zheng Long's plan was almost successful. He expected that Lu Shengaiyu would invite someone from Yangning Xiangsan division. So Zheng Long asked the 12th floor master of Blackfish and himself to attack at the same time, intercepting Lu Shengaiyu halfway and buying more time for the other side to attack the Xiangsan division. In addition to the participation of the other side, Wang Zhaohei and Zhuo Yuan wanted to join the attack on the Xiangsan division. Their target was Qin Yang. According to Zheng Long's prediction, the deputy chief Chen Qiahei would not take action. He was happy that the Xiangsan division was destroyed so that he could become the chief of the Xiangsan division of Shan County. The only trouble was Zhang Liao. The head of the Zuanling department was unfathomable. Only a great magician of the other side could hold him back, waiting for Zhuo Yuan to solve Qin Yang, and then the two of them would join forces to solve Zhang Liao. But in the end, a situation that no one expected occurred. Qin Yang, the bronze medal killer of the Xiangsan division, killed Zhuo Yuan and killed Wang Zhaohei together. This failure was indeed a major blow to Zheng Long. Once Lu Shengaiyu has recovered, I wonder how he will retaliate. This time, the Sky Patrol division was not destroyed, and even Wang Zhaohei himself was killed. The old woman Sun Yan also sighed. This time, the major families sent their own secretly trained death warriors to disguise as members of the other shore religion. But less than 1/3 of the people came back alive, and they were basically killed by Qin Yang. Now is not the time to entangle these things. We have to think about the retreat. Li Jihei shook his head helplessly. There are not many ways left for them now. Only two. Either give up the foundation and escape from Shan County City, or continue to stay in Shan County City and fight the Sky Patrol division to the end. But this sneak attack failed, so Li Jihei and Sun Yan lost their confidence in fighting against the Sky Patrol division. The current Sky Patrol division is too scary. Lu Shengaiyu, Zhang Liao, the swordsman in the bamboo hat, and this does not count Qin Yang, the god of killing. A total of 4 eel level combat forces. Don't forget Li Qiahei, the deputy chief. Although he didn't fight this time because of the internal struggle, once Lu Shengai resolved the conflict with him, it would be a big trouble again. On their side, Zheng Long is the only real martial artist left. The 12th master of the Blackfish building disappeared without a trace after returning, so he is not worthy of trust. If the fight continues, the family may be destroyed. It doesn't matter. We still have a chance to turn the tables, Zheng Long said in a deep voice. What chance? Sun Yan asked. That is to join my Bian sect. A handsome middle-aged man walked in and smiled slightly. Sun Yan and Li Jihei both frowned. Once they get on the ship of the Bian sect, it will be even more unpredictable. I don't have any choice, and you don't have any choice either, Zheng Long said with a deep face. We didn't destroy the headquarters of the patrol division this time. When Lu Shengai recovers, he will definitely take revenge on our families. Besides, there is a vicious person like Qin Yang. Even if you give up your foundation in Shan County City for many years, without the protection of the other Shu religion, you will never be able to escape unscrupulously. You only have one way left, which is to join the other Shu religion. Sun Yan and Li Jihei's faces were uncertain. They knew that Zheng Long was right. After escaping from Shan County, Lu Shengai would only hunt them down more recklessly. Following the other Shu religion, there might be a way out. My Sun family is willing. Sun Yan gritted his teeth and said. Hearing Sun Yan's words, Li Jihei agreed without hesitation. Very good. After this failure, there is no place for our three families in Shan County City. We will leave here first, but don't worry, we will be back here soon, Zheng Long whispered. Hearing that they were going to give up their foundation in Shan County City, Li Jihei and Sun Yan were still reluctant. This is the ancestral property accumulated by generations. Now that they can give up, who can bear it? You have to be willing to give up, even if you don't want to. Staying in Shan County means being liquidated by Lu Shengai. Think about the fate of the Han family. Stay alive first. As long as you are alive, there will always be a chance to get back everything you lost. Zheng Long closed his eyes and whispered. Among the three families, the Zheng family has been entrenched in Shan County for the longest time and has the deepest influence. His loss is the biggest. But as he said before, you have to be willing to give up, even if you don't want to. Li Jihei and Sun Yan looked at each other and could only sigh. The next day, Patrol Sky Division. What? The three major families have all run away. Lu Shengai was shocked when he heard Han Qianyu's report. Yes, this is the information sent by Governor Gongsun. The three major families fled overnight and should have evacuated by water. He is sending people to track down the whereabouts of the three major families. Han Qianyu said in a deep voice. I didn't expect Zheng Long to be so willing to give it up. Such a huge foundation, and the status of a county lieutenant. He just said no. Lu Shengai frowned. He originally planned to deal with Zheng Long after cleaning up the mess of the patrol department. Unexpectedly, the other party ran away directly. The monk can run away, but the temple cannot. The industries of the major families cannot be transferred out. Han Qianyu said. It's useless to our patrol department. In the end, it's a bargain for Gongsun Liang. Lu Shengai sighed softly. But, his tone suddenly became sinister. Zhang Zhao's revenge must be avenged. Tell the patrol department to track down the whereabouts of the major families. Even if they run to the ends of the earth, I, Lu Shengai, will hunt them down to the end. Han Qianyu said, I have already ordered it. But I think Zheng Long and his people may join the other Shore sect. After the attack on the patrol department, it can be known. The connection between Zheng Long and the other Shore sect is very close. This is better. I'm not afraid of not finding them. Lu Shengai sneered. Now that the internal troubles in Shan County City have disappeared, as long as he is given some time to recover, he can start to attack the other Shore sect. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.